And do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to record this stream as well because of what happened to the last one, because that was very
Yes.
frustrating. Okay, hello everyone. We are here to watch Carlo, Z4Carlo versus Blaidwyn in a round 3 game for the ASOIAF Riverrun Tournament. Game of Thrones, Lannisters versus Starks, the classic. The starter box matchup. So let's see what happens. Mickey, thoughts on the game?
My thoughts, I guess, we're seeing them just they've chosen their lists. We're seeing them like literally just line everything up and talk about, I guess, the pre-game stuff. But the obvious thing to mention is that there's a mountain that rides in the game, and it's a classic from Carlo. We're seeing his 4 spam of the High Sparrow and his
Poor
followers. So he's
fellows,
got
yeah.
the poor fellows with the warrior sons. I've seen this list play. I mean, I've played against Carlo a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this list played a lot. It's been through various different variations when they obviously changed up what Warrior Sons do, and the Champions of Faith got
Yeah,
changed.
and Kingsguard were sort of in and out of it as well, weren't they?
Exactly. So I've seen all variations of this same list, but and it's a horrible list to play against. The thing is, what it is week 2, and what the poor fellows don't want to see on the game is the poor fellows don't want to see units that, when they charge, have a real possibility to delete the unit.
Mm-hmm.
That they just want to be in there, and then once they get down to low number of wounds, they're happy to sit there regenerating and not really doing anything, just holding units up.
Yeah, just being tar pits, really, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah.
So
The problem is the start bowmen from Blaidwyn are going to be a nightmare because he has no easy way of closing with them, and they will absolutely shred the poor fellows.
yeah, they've got Roderick in as well. So let's quickly just talk about lists. So we've got a mountain that rides. We've
Mm-hmm.
got Poor Fellows as Merrin, Poor Fellow as Preston, Poor Fellow as champions, and then Warrior Sons was champion. NCUs wise, we have Walder, High Sparrow, of course, and Joffrey. So obviously we know Joffrey's there because he's going to. He grants always holding the crown, right?
Yes.
So that means that Merrin and Preston are going to always be triggering their abilities. Um, and obviously High Sparrow being the commander for this list is a free NCU, which frees up some points for the list. I mean, it's practically just freeing up points for the mountain that rides, isn't it? Really, that's your extra activation that you're getting for the zero NCU commander. On the Stark side, we've got Stark Bowman with Roderick Castlemoss at arms. We've got House and Berserkers, Brannon Hodor, Sworn Swords of Sirio, and Great Axes with Rickon, Shaggy Dog, and Summer. And I believe we must have Sansa, Arya, and Catelyn. Oh, Catelyn. It's interesting. So do you think Catelyn is? So what
I
do
mean,
you think of Catelyn in this list?
Catelyn's a common. I mean, I don't know about Catelyn being particularly amazing,
Yeah.
but Catelyn is the counter dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Counters the Axel style of put a token on and delete a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a good thing for Blaidwyn to be running, not necessarily in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It also is the classic synergy of Caitlyn with Berserkers. So they get those extra couple of dice on their full rank because
Mm-hmm.
they can pretend they're hitting on their last rank. So it's a good combo, and it's a commonly seen one, right? It was the old classic. You charge in with Caitlyn, and your Berserkers hit a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Um,
So what about so Caitlyn's 4 points, right?
yeah,
So what about her maybe compared to someone like Varys?
I mean, I can talk about Varys all day,
Yeah.
and for the sake of the stream, I won't.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're playing against other players, Caitlyn is a good choice for your own forces to disrupt a little bit of what they do, but ultimately to make what you do a little bit better. If you are playing against Game of Thrones, if you're playing against the game, you pick Varys. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Varys is Oh god. At the risk of pissing everyone off, I wish Varus was just removed.
from the game.
Um, yeah.
He is a what I would call an anti-fun gamer, isn't he? Hi guys, I don't
So
let this high
what I
spread too
will
much.
say,
Go on. Sorry.
what I will say about Varus is there's this weird, thing in Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, in the way that people play the game, in that they always say, "Oh, but like the Mel example, oh, he doesn't get countered by Varus."
Mm-hmm.
To which I say, have you ever played a faction like Free Folk, for example, who don't have access to Varus?
Yeah.
Have you ever played in a meta in a game where Varus simply doesn't exist? Because if you haven't, then maybe you realize why Varus is bad.
Mm-hmm.
You do play games without Varus. Play factions that don't have access to Varus, and you'll realize why Varus is a bad thing for the game. Because you shouldn't just have counter options available to literally everybody.
Yeah.
Other games don't give you that. They don't just say, look, everyone can have a counter to something.
I
No.
mean, even games where they have something similar-ish in, it's much more of an investment. So, like, if you look at something like I know everyone hates 40k now, but 40k. So, if you look at 40k, so one of the famous stratagems from 40k is Vect from the Dark Eldar, and that's basically just like you're going to do something, but I'm stopping you from doing it. So you try to use your toys, but I'm going to stop you from doing it by using my toys. But it costs like potentially like a quarter of your resources for the game, and you can only use it once per turn. So it's big. You know what I mean? It's a huge substantial investment. Whereas you pay your 4 points for Varus, you get to use them every turn as an NCU anyways. But you've got those 4 opportunities that really, really ruining someone's day. And
So the issue with Varus, right, and the reason why he's balanced and why he makes sense at 4 points is because statistically you're going to fail 2 of your 4 rolls.
yeah,
Like they had to make something like they had to make something random
hmm
in order to make it a playable piece in the game. And if you don't understand the impact of that decision making,
hmm
then you don't understand the game design.
right,
Because if something is too powerful for it to be certain, so all you do is make it random,
hmm
and you say on average that this will do 2 times, yes, that's fair enough. That's probably right.
hmm
That's probably the right level of power. But the problem is he still has the option of doing 4.
yeah.
And then on the flip side, he has the option of doing 0, and you've just played 4 points for an NCU who literally does jack shit.
So, do you think you would be better off at 4 points and just having two guaranteed no's? Like,
Yeah,
like you've got, yeah.
100%.
So,
100%.
actually, I had never considered that, and I think that's a much better idea. I think that's a much better idea. We've all
Takes
had
away the
games.
randomness.
We've all had the games where the Varus doesn't roll a single one, and you laugh through the whole game thinking this is fantastic. But then you also, on the flip side, have the game where your opponent's Varus rolls all four of the counters, and it really makes your turns a lot more difficult. Um,
So you have to as a player, and I think this is one thing that people forget. You have to, as a player, learn
mhm,
to adapt to how the game is played. And people see Varus as an easy way of going, look, I don't have to play around this thing anymore because I can just use Varus to try and get rid of it.
mhm.
It's an easy man. It's the lazy way of dealing with a solution, or a problem, I should say. But do I blame people for doing that? Of course not, because it's a lazy way of dealing with a problem that
Mhm.
works. Why try any harder when you just got the lazy, easy solution?
Mhm.
And the problem is, I mean, I could talk about this again all day. There are some seriously powerful cards out there,
Mhm.
specifically when you look in some decks. I mean, Stark is a good example of
Very
one.
good example. Yeah.
You know, straight up, take any zone and you can turn it into a charge.
Yeah.
That is one of the most powerful tactics cards in the game.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Like,
So, yeah. So, I mean, especially coming from a faction who has similar card but very restricted to one of the zones, which is very often taken away from you because people understand its significance to your faction. Obviously, we're talking about Free Folk and the horse. You need that for Harmer's card to charge, right?
yeah,
So,
don't get me wrong. That card is very powerful. Like
yeah,
that
yeah,
card is
oh
insanely
yeah.
powerful.
But to just have to have a faction that's as strong as the Starks with a fully upgraded version in the base deck, you see some good, like some definite strengths to certain decks as opposed to others. But it all comes into
Of course.
experience. So one of the things that I think is quite interesting about watching. So I quite often refer back to a game where I watched you and Carlo playing,
Hmm.
and a lot of the discussion that you were having was knowledge of which cards had already been spent by your opponent and the likeliness of what you've got in each other. So you were like, I think, I want to do this, but I think if I play anything now, there's a good chance that you've got a counterplot in your hand. So I'm not entirely sure if I want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's the game knowledge of um, opponents' decks, opponents' sort of like how an opponent might be posturing when they've got those cards, or are they trying to bluff you or double bluff you? It's sort of really the depth of the game really expands when you start getting more experience, as opposed to some other games where you have. Somebody might have a very obvious play, and that's the only play that they're going to make because that's the best one to do. Whereas I think there's a lot of, because of the hidden hand and the tactics board, we see a lot of, a bit of subversion and things, which is quite nice. So we've got someone in the chat called Bloodraven Rivers
Ah,
who
yes,
says,
Blaidwyn.
so he says he doesn't like this high sparrow list too much. He says poor fellows are good, but a lot of hits will kill them, which we agree.
Yes.
But we do know that Lannisters do have cards which can help with defense, and we also know that High Sparrows has a lot of healing inbuilt um, into his deck. I'll probably, well, so personally, I would think that we're going to see a lot of Joffrey taking money bags. Um,
Oh, I wouldn't have thought so. Like straight away, you mentioned the High Sparrow being this like Healy kind of character,
yeah.
wanting these useful things. Carlo in this particular game against Starks, he's going to want to absolutely monopolize letters.
Do you think?
He
Oh
needs
well, yeah.
to
So
close down Stark card draw, and he also needs to get those High Sparrow cards into his hands because
yeah.
those High Sparrow cards coming out onto Poor Fellows,
Hmm.
those Berserkers charge in, and they're going right. I'm going to kill 10 Poor Fellows.
Hmm.
Then he plays some High Sparrow cards, and it's like, no, the maximum you can kill now is 5.
Yeah.
That suddenly turns a good attack into something that's, to be honest, pointless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so letters is going to be huge. So Joffrey taking letters is going to be common. Yes, he's going to take money bags, and yeah, he'll probably take crowns as well every now and then. But really, he doesn't want to take crowns with this list
Yeah.
because he doesn't care about controlling it with Joffrey
No.
because he has Joffrey. So he's not going to take crowns, and more importantly, he's going to leave crowns open for Starks to pick because what are they going to crowns at? I mean, the mountain is actually the best target to crowns at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, we looked
What's
at
mountain
this.
that rides morale?
It's 3.
3. All right.
We actually looked at this as well. Me and Carlo did a little bit of a practice. Well, not practice, but we looked at the stats of it.
Mhm.
If you want to kill the mountain that rides,
Mhm.
like honestly, put a panic token on the mountain that rides as early as you can
Mhm.
and take crowns.
Just try and zap him.
Because honestly, if he rolls a 1 on the first roll, it's worth spending the panic token because he's a 50% chance he rolls a 1, 2, or 3,
Mhm.
and if he didn't roll a 3 on the first D3 roll, you can try and make him re-roll that to try and get a 3.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance, like it's not a particularly low chance that you can actually just kill the mountain from a crown zap straight up.
Right.
Um,
Because how many wounds has he got? 4.
yeah, so you need
Yeah.
to get the 3 on the dice.
Yeah.
But like it's really not actually that unreasonable.
So Blood Raven's also asking about objectives. So obviously in the centre we've got the normal objective. It's +1 VP, but they suffer a panic test at -2 with the roll. On the on my left at the moment we've got objective +1 tactics card. So they get a draw tactics card when they claim it, and they've got +1 tactics 1 hand size. So they'll draw up to 4 instead. This one is the free maneuver or retreat when you score points from it. This one over here is the attack in Sunrun and Vicious, but take D3 wounds after completing any melee attack. And this one is so the opposite of the other one, the -1 tactics card. So whilst you claim this objective, your opponent draws 1 less card when refilling the tactics hand.
So this is going to be, I mean, I really hate this. there's a real big issue here with wolves and the way they synergize with the +1 hand size card, because you know, you can dance the wolves on and off the points, and every time you reclaim, because you do your maneuver off, you unclaim the objective, you move back on, you reclaim the objective,
because they
and
get
whenever
that free
you claim the
maneuver.
objective, you get the card back.
Yeah.
So there's a huge, I wouldn't say it's a problem. I wouldn't even go as far as saying it's an exploit, because it's, you know, clearly within the game allowed, but it is very jammy that you can just basically jump on and off these points with wolves and get a free card for every turn. Now Carlo can kind of somewhat counter that by making the hand size -1 with the far left objective that he's got access to.
Yeah.
But -1 hand size and a thing that gives you +1 hand size counter each other.
Yeah.
So the net effect is that Stark's going to be on 3 cards, and
drawing an
every
extra
turn
card
they
every
get a free
turn.
draw.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't like the way that particular objective works, and it does favour, you know, as crazy as it sounds, it's a very good objective for wolves
Starks,
to control and Starks to control. I'm not Stark bashing, you know, but there's a clear cut difference in the power level of Starks right now.
Yeah.
And specific lists and specific things within Starks. Not everything in Stark is powerful, obviously, but there's a very clear cut difference. You know, if the mountain that rides is going to be looking at that card draw engine at the Starks there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Carlo uses his mountain that rides that basically just charge down the side of that board
down
as
the
fast
side
as
of
he
the
can.
board to try and wipe out whichever wolf is standing on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because just be straight up honest at this point. If he charges the wolf is going to die.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
it's just dead. Like, the chances of him not dying is unreasonably low.
So I literally don't know the mountain that rides card because he never gets used in our group, obviously because of him being a Kickstarter model.
Kickstarter exclusive. Yeah.
So I actually don't know what his stats are like. Does he allow saves? Has he got D3 automatic wounds or anything like that?
I'll read this to you and I'll let you react at the end, okay? Because if you react at each point, you'll probably blow your own head off. So first stat, he's move 5. Okay.
Right.
He's got 4 wounds.
Okay.
He rolls 4 dice on a 3+ to hit.
Right.
2+ armor save, 3+ morale.
2+ armor save and 3+ morale.
Man doesn't die.
Yeah. So does he get a free cavalry move as well?
Yep, he's cavalry, so he gets the free cavalry move.
Right.
Now, on his attack, he gets 3 abilities. He gets crit blow, charged enemies become panicked, and also your defender gets no defensive saves.
Crit blow and no defensive saves.
Yes. It's just straight up. He runs into you on 3+ with 4 dice, and assuming he's charged, you're panicked, and he will statistically hit with at least 3, probably more likely 4 hits.
Yeah.
So he's hit all 4, and he's probably rolled at least 1 6. So you're probably taking 5 wounds. Straight up, 5 wounds.
Yeah. And then
you can block the hits though. This is a key here. You can block the hits using things like the Tully's shield.
Right. Okay.
Things are not auto wounds.
Yeah.
They just don't get defense saves.
Right. So
you things like Tully's shields.
Night's Watch, the shield that God the realms and then things like that.
Yeah, so that works really well against the mountain. But but not much else does. He cleaves certainly anything that's like a low number of wounds or solo units and things. He absolutely cleaves through. I mean, even giants. He's pretty dangerous to giants. The difference is if he doesn't kill a giant, the giant will kill him in return. It will just kill him.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, I would have loved to seen in the TV series, the mountain battling with a giant, and the giant just clobbering him with a tree. I think that would have been a fitting end for Gregor.
Okay, so I think Carlo wants me to do some
physics changes, and you'll need to battle ready the trades as well.
Okay, so will I have to switch the game master for that?
Because
you can't
yeah, you might do. You might do, yeah, but it doesn't matter because they haven't got any cards in hand.
So I need to go to physics.
Select the dice, physics, bounciness. Second tab. They look like old trays to me. They don't look like they're.
Carlos.
Yeah. That might just be spectator bug though. I've
Yeah.
seen it happen.
So do I have to give all the dice a buntiness of 1, yeah?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
So, oops, it is. I hope he's explained to him what I'm doing, because it'll look very dodgy if he hasn't.
It's fine.
Physics, bounciness 1, and these ones, physics, bounciness 1. Okay. Let's see. So once they finish deploying, I'll
You'll need to battle ready them, if you can. Can you even see the battle ready buttons on them?
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
I'll just measure them. So I've battle ready the first 3. So do you see stuff on the trays now?
I see. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So Game of Thrones typically for me not a very good game mode. I tend to feel pretty miserably at this one. But so as far as competitiveness goes, how do you feel about Game of Thrones as a tournament style? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Battle ready and battle ready. Right, so sorry, Mickey. I was just asking. So, how do you feel about Game of Thrones, the mode itself, as a competitive game mode in in tournament setting?
I think it's a 100% competitive game mode. I think anyone that says the randomness in it kills the game, then, the game's got dice in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Can I just
It's
point
not
out
chess. Yeah, it's not chess. Yeah.
the same people who say that this is luck based and it's luck related, and I'm just going to say this out there as well. Same thing for the Dark Winds, Dark Words. People who start on that. Same people who say that Wings of Winter is bad,
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh, it's random. It's just random. It's just random." Go back to our earlier conversation. Varus exists.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot sit here and tell me that randomness doesn't dictate a game when you happily put Varus in your list.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, your argument is false. You can't argue that one element of randomness is a positive thing, but one element of randomness is a negative.
It's a negative. Yeah.
So, yes, it can be on one-sided. I won't deny that the setup and things can be on one-sided, right? But ultimately, it comes down to player skill. These games after setup, I mean, if you're even remotely cogent, even newer players will know that stacking all of the objective tokens on one side of the board will mean that if you lose the roll at the start of the game, then you probably won't win, right? Because they'll just choose the side of the board with all the objective tokens on. So newer players will recognize that very quickly, and as a result, you typically see games and boards that are very similar. And they're not always symmetrical, but they could well be symmetrical in terms of token placement.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to what objectives come out on what areas and what pieces you turn off and what kind of things. People talk about the NCU being switched off as a powerful objective, which it is. I'm not going to sit here and lie, it is. But actually, it's up to you as your player now to recognize that that's the kinds of things you could encounter in the game.
Yeah.
you're building a list, let's say you're building a I don't know, a Baratheon list, which completely relies on Mel in order for you to win the game, on average, then that list is bad for this game mode. Because if that objective comes up and your component can easily control it, what you're saying is, I've taken my Mel list, I need Mel to do work, but she's been switched off. So you're going in with the wrong mentality if you're feeling, oh, that objective came up for you, therefore I lost. It's up to you as the player to recognize what is the weakest possible, the weakest realistic option that you're going to face. Yeah. And how is your list and how are you as a player going to deal with that weakest possible option? And, if you're the better player you are, obviously the better strategy you have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and tell people that I'm amazing at this game because I'm not. But it's going in with that mindset of, if you assume that you're going to have to fight uphill from day one, because you going into the game, you assume the game is going to be difficult, then it turns out to be easy. Like, that's a good start, right? That's like saying I'm going to climb a mountain, but I already start 10 meters away from the peak.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you don't prepare to climb the whole mountain.
No, of course not.
It's a subtle thing, and I get really, uppity, and I get really emotional, if you like, about these things.
Yeah,
but
that's good.
A lot of people who say it's random. A lot of people who say, "Oh, you got that objective, therefore it's not fair." Yeah. It's like, well,
you need to adapt and overcome, don't you? You can't just
exactly.
Yeah. So, just to quickly zip to the game here, we've just spent a lot of time talking about how good it is for a wolf to be able to maneuver off and back onto that point, and he's deployed both his wolves on the complete opposite side of the board.
Yep.
So do you think he knows about that sort of, I'm not going to call it an exploit, but that particularly strong potential ability from the wolves, or do you think he maybe has something a little bit more underhanded planned for them?
I think he's using the wolves this particular game to be more aggressive down the board.
Right.
There's probably going to be a lone unit of poor fellows holding this objective down here, and maybe he's thinking he can harass them and just threaten them a little bit.
Yeah.
At opportune moments to try and take away a point. If they can come in and do the right number of wounds, there's a good chance that they'll drop down to 2 ranks, and the wolf can then start to contest a little bit. If you can get them down to 1 rank, then that would be perfect because they won't be scoring any points. So maybe that's his plan there. I don't know. Maybe he thought it would be obvious that he deployed on that side because he would have seen the mountain that rides come down on that flank. Even though it wasn't deployed there, he would have guessed that that's where he was coming down, and as a result, he deployed away from that.
Right.
To negate just the mountain that just obliterating the wolves.
Yeah, just dashing down the board and doing what we're talking about, having a particularly nasty.
I mean, interesting as well. It's Roderick's bowmen that look like they're going to be taking that, and they can just sit on that objective, and they can sit there all day. But I don't like the bowman placement really. I don't like the bowman placement because I feel like they could have been in the middle of the board, expressing real threat to the 3 central objectives. And when I say real threat, I do mean real threat. That bowman shooting a unit of poor fellows is that's probably going to be 6 poor fellows dead every shot.
Yeah.
And that's not including panics. I'm assuming at this point that they'll pass the panics. Yeah, it's not a great, in my opinion, it's not a great choice of the bowman placement. But I might be wrong. I don't play Starks myself.
No.
Except for a couple of times when I first started, and even then I was winning games when I first started because I just looked at the things and was like, these berserkers are pretty good, and these great axes are pretty good, and these bowmen are pretty good.
Wow, these are really good to just run at somebody and kill a unit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I used to use Outriders before they got buffed.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago, admittedly, but I used to use Outriders and thought, Outriders are pretty cool, they're pretty useful. They're not great all the time, but...
Did you start using them because you thought, wow, these models look cool, and I like having a bit of cavalry? Because that's what I did. I was just like, I love cavalry. I really love cavalry.
I really love cavalry too, but that's not why I picked them. I picked them because I looked at them and thought, They're just pretty useful. You know, I can get the free maneuver. I get to have extra distance on where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I can get more flanks. That seems pretty good. Didn't really pick them because they were that good in stats wise necessarily.
Yeah.
But then when they got the buff, oh my god,
Yeah.
Outriders are like legit. I'm happy to lay down my hand here and say that Outriders are probably the best unit in the game. Point for point, best unit in
I
the game.
think the stats from the TTS league were pretty pretty good. At proving that as well. They did. I think they did really well in their games, didn't they?
They had the overall highest. If you disclude anything below like 1 or 2 games,
Yeah.
they had the overall highest win rate
Mm-hmm.
of any unit in the game in
Yeah.
non-mirror matches. And believe it or not, something that we've seen I didn't really recognize until the TTS League. Stormcrow Mercenaries with Bran, or more importantly, Stormcrow Mercenaries with Rickon.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
That combo of getting something like basically a wolf for no points.
Yeah.
Turns out that's actually pretty broken. But yeah.
So did Carlo lose a model there? Oh no, it must have just hit by accident. Okay, so we're seeing a pretty aggressive dash up the board. So we're not talking about too much about what's happening on the board at the moment because first turns tend to not be
Interesting.
the most exciting things in the world. But so free maneuver coming from Carlo. He moved a unit of poor fellows forward. We've seen him take the crowns with Walder.
Yep, 100% correct idea.
He's at the bowman. Excuse me.
No, he's at the wolf. He's at
Sorry, he's at the wolf and took a panic test on the bowman.
Yeah.
And who did he influence?
He influenced
the wolf. So sorry, yes, of course. Yeah. And now we're just seeing we're sort of general advances up the board. So do you think what he might try and do is maybe use the wolves, although wolves aren't insignificant anymore, are they? So I think using them as a roadblock would probably be dangerous.
Can I just point out something really important?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what Carlo's done in this turn and turn 1 is perfect, right? He chose to go second.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows he's going to be down on the NCU board, so he doesn't play Joffrey on this turn. You're wondering why he doesn't play Joffrey. Well, Joffrey only gives him the zone's ability. He doesn't really care about Joffrey unless he can control crowns as well for his units, right? But taking High Sparrow down onto the horses means that High Sparrow onto Gregor means that Gregor just simply, statistically, will just not die to a crown zap on turn 1.
Yeah.
So that removes any, as far as Carlo's concerned now, every unit that he's got is now safe, okay? And then he also takes the horse zone, very importantly, because the Stark player took letters, which, you kind of expect. He takes horses and goes, you know what? You like horses, you like to be maneuverable, but I want to use that maneuver to my advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he doesn't care what the Stark player does. Honestly, he honestly doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right? And his next option, he takes Walder onto crowns. He gets a crown zap for free. He activates Walder because he's second player. Why does Stark player doesn't want to take crowns?
Yeah.
He activates Walder on a turn he's not going first, and he managed to get a point in that wolf. First activation, next turn, Walder can take any zone, probably going to take letters, and Summer is dead. Carlo's up 1 VP, you just don't know it yet.
Yeah. So this is quite an interesting point to make, actually, especially with Carlo's list and Walder. So Carlo's list is faith-based list, and obviously faith-based lists have, on average, fantastic morale. So I think, is it 4 for the poor fellows? 3 for the poor fellows, 5 for the warrior sons.
4 for the warrior sons now, I believe.
Is it 4?
I think so.
So
I might be wrong because I don't play against warrior sons as much. Yeah, it's 4.
Yeah. So even with the negative from a crown, we're very unlikely going to see any wounds taken. So it makes the crown even less appealing to the Stark player, which gives Carlo, almost like you said, almost like that ability to just walk Walder onto it, get that free crown, and then. So do you think next turn the first play is going to be Walder onto letters and a dead dog?
I'm going to see Dead Dog first turn. He doesn't even have to take crowns with Walder because he's first
No,
player.
letters. Walder onto letters.
Yeah, no, letters, 100%. Yeah, letters, 100% with Walder first turn. The important thing to note here as well, the Stark player is on 5 cards. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little bit of again, me and Carlo have talked a lot about this in testing and talked about it with other players as well.
Mm-hmm.
People value the letters space because of the tactics cards it brings,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you look at your first 3 cards in your hand, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all, your weaker cards in your deck, you're not really thinking you're going to keep them. You're
Yeah.
more likely want to throw them
Yeah.
because the situation in which they're going to use, you're just not going to appear in the first couple of turns.
Mm-hmm.
Letters is an awful pick for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because what letters does is it puts extra cards in your hand, so when you throw away cards,
You can't draw up.
you won't draw up.
Mm-hmm.
So Carlo chose not to take letters this game. He wasn't going first, so he didn't have the choice really.
Yeah.
But does he care? Not really. He's got 4 cards in hand, and he can look at his hand now and go, how many of these cards do I not care about? Throw them away.
Mm-hmm.
Blaidwyn has to evaluate his cards and go, how many of these cards do I not value? Throw them away. But then if he's, he is cycling his deck faster, which is obviously a positive. But if he's got cards he wants, then throwing away cards becomes less valuable for him. And actually what it does is it starts to lower the effectiveness of the letters.
Yeah. So
Letters is good to
uh,
get rid of cards you don't want.
we've just been raided by George from Three Sales.
We have, haven't we? Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, George. So I think, and again, I always talk about you being a free folk player, but I think you understand that very well, being a free folk player and knowing sometimes how hard you have to dig for your better cards.
I mean,
It's
I've
it's
played games
it's
of free folk where only half the deck is actually useful to me in a given situation.
yeah.
So you have to be willing to throw cards.
I've very often, and I think it happened quite in the last game that we streamed. I've seen you very often be very ruthless with your discard first turn and just be like, these 3 cards aren't going to do something for me in the next, 1 turn or 2 turns. I'm not going to hold on to them. I'm getting rid of them because I need to find one of 3, one of 4 cards, whatever.
The killer for tactics cards, really. I mean, there are some cards I really couldn't care less if I see them both copies in my first hand. But there are some tactics cards, if I see both copies in my first hand, I'm crying, man. As a free folk player, especially, Endless Horde. Like, if I see Endless Horde in my first draw, I am upset. Because I know that if I discard them both, I can't get them back.
Mhm.
I know that if I only discard one, I'm cycling through my deck slower.
Yeah.
I'm sad if I see that. Whereas if I see one in my hand at the starting turn, I'm like, yes, get that thing in the bin.
Yeah, get rid.
If I have 2 more units on to win the game, I've probably lost anyway.
Yeah, I've got you. Especially considering it's going to take 2 turns to do it as well. So thank you, Hurrikuriko.
RKO. I believe his name is Ben, over from George's channel.
Thank you, Ben. Very kind of you to follow. So we're just finishing up turn 1 now. So I think you just streamed.
Targs versus Targs.
It was Togs versus Togs, wasn't it? It was one of Gruselug's games. Gruselug's a lovely guy from. I played a game against him in the NRG TTS League whilst he was playing Baratheons. It was quite a good one. Oh, Gruswin, cool. So, yeah, welcome to the stream, lads. Welcome to the stream.
I just want to say, for those of you who've just been watching Gruselug, did an interview with him that you can see in the Baratheon, as part of the guild stuff, a Baratheon interview with players and community, because I want to get the community's opinions on them. And Gruselug did an absolutely epic job of singing Chumbawamba's Tub Thumping at the end of the video. So, Gruce is he's an absolutely brilliant lad.
He is,
really like
he's top notch, and he's a great opponent as well. He's a really good opponent. Like he dealt with me very well when I was literally aghast by the Brienne the Blue and Brienne the Blue and counter charge combo. I was just like, "What? This can't be real, man. This can't be." Honestly, it is. Ghosts Expur, welcome. Thank you very much for the follow. So we are seeing just the last little bits of. I think we're just seeing Blaidwyn see if he can get a shift and a fire off.
shift and shot.
Shift and shot. Sorry, was he in range? I didn't. It doesn't look like it.
Probably
Does
not.
it? No.
I mean,
Yeah.
don't need to take measure to rule that one.
No.
You might be looking at. There is a good chance he's looking at a swift maneuver, a swift advance. Sorry,
Got you.
shot.
Yeah. Got you. Got you.
which actually against the mountain with the 3+ armor.
2+ armor.
Yeah, sorry, 2+ armor.
He is vulnerable though.
Yeah, is it something that he's probably worried about? I mean, statistically, it's unlikely he'll die.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, if there's a good chance he'll do a couple of wounds,
Mm-hmm.
and Panic Chest can kill. Well, actually, no, it can't kill him.
He's got the High Sparrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't kill him.
So that makes him a 0+ morale.
Yeah. Well, technically a 2+.
Because you can't go. Because is it Snake Eyes always fail?
No. There's no such thing as auto pass or auto fail.
Is he 4+ morale? Oh, it's 2+ save. 2+ save.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lists, George, we're looking at Carlo's High Sparrow list. So High Sparrow with Joffrey and Walder. We've got 3 units of Poor Fellows.
Yep.
One has Meryn Trent, one has Preston, one has Champion of the Faith, and we've got a unit of Warrior Sons who also has a Champion of Faith, and then the seemingly ever present in this tournament Mountain That Rides.
Mountain that kills.
Yeah, the Mountain That Kills. Yeah. So yeah, he's large and in charge on the board at the moment.
So we saw there that the card that Carlo threw away from his hand, he had 4 cards in hand, and what does he throw away? 2 Lannister pays his debts.
Yeah.
He looks at that and he just thinks, nah, that's just not going to be useful.
No.
Because he thinks his units aren't going to die.
So his game plan is for his units to stay around for as long as possible. So relying on those cards, I suppose, is probably... And again, this comes back to what we were just talking about. It makes no sense to keep cards that aren't part of your game plan or aren't going to be useful in the next, say, 2 rounds. Having 2 cards in your hands for 2 rounds that aren't going to be used is just going to negatively affect you.
Look at Blaidwyn's hand then. He took letters. He was very keen in taking letters to get those extra card draw, and he's set on 5 cards.
Yeah.
So Blaidwyn is looking at a quarter of his deck, and he's made the decision that the quarter of his deck that he sees is a good thing.
Yeah.
Carlo's currently seen 4 cards. He then discarded 1, he's up to 5. So Carlo's also seen 5 cards, and he's decided that 2 of the cards, because he didn't discard those on turn 1, 2 of those cards are really good. The question is, Carlo's chosen his 2 that are very good. Blaidwyn hasn't chosen his.
Yeah.
It's
just what he had. Yeah.
And he's decided that that's okay.
And I believe Carlo picked up the -1 hand size as well. So.
And what you're about to see is Carlo take Walder onto letters. I'm almost guaranteed Walder onto letters.
So what we're expecting is Walder onto letters for is it Summer?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Summer
so Summer, who already has a wound from the last turn, to take another wound from the Walder influence, and after that to be dead. Scoring Carlo 1 VP, losing an activation for. Oh, he's taking them on the horse.
He decides to take the horse. I can understand why he would take horse. As we discussed before, horses is a very powerful zone for the Stark player.
Yeah, especially when we're looking at. So is it sudden charge that gets, or is it Northern Ferocity? That gives you the extra wounds. Is it D3 wounds on charges if you've got the.
Yeah. So. Yeah, this is actually brilliant. So Carlo has recognised a very important fact. Where he will win and lose this game is on the objectives, as we know, and the central objective for 2 victory points a turn is going to be very important.
Yeah.
The poor fellows don't care about the minus panic check really. So he activates them first. He goes, throws them in, and this is actually, this just shows you how good Carlo, a player Carlo is. He rates the horses so much here because he can just sit them on the objective and goes, right, yeah, you can probably charge me. Yeah, you'll probably kill quite a few of us, but I haven't activated yet. So I get my wounds back when I activate, especially with the Champion of Faith involved. I get wounds back when I take money bags, which I'm probably going to do because I've got something to money bags. Whereas, are you realistically going to take money bags on the bowman now? No.
Do you think it'll be a Joffrey on the money bags? It doesn't really matter who goes on, does it? But
no, not really. And it still leaves letters open as a shot for Carlo to go, look, you can take money bags and see more of your deck, but you probably don't want to see more than my deck. So he's baiting Blaidwyn into taking letters, and actually goes, you know what? Yeah, do it. You can have more cards. But if your cards don't have the secondary effect, what does it matter? You know, if your cards don't actually benefit you that much,
Yeah.
you won't win. You're right, they do have to pass a -3 check now, yeah.
What about so we haven't seen the High Sparrow influence go down yet, though.
No, we haven't.
So that -3 might become -1, making it a 4+ check. It's failable. Let's all know. Keep in mind that is definitely failable because I've watched Scott's Unsullied die several times to panic checks. So we're seeing Catelyn on the letters.
Yeah, so he's taken letters again, and he's replacing it with sudden charge. Is that? I'm pretty sure it's sudden charge, isn't it? Yep, there we go. So he's taken letters, and he's taken sudden charge, and here's the combo. He takes devastating impact as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's putting Caitlyn on it. So this is a full stack of Umber Berserkers, 10 dice with Brand's thingy, charging with a free charge, with 2 extra auto hits that they can reroll if they fail.
So this is going to be 10 plus 2 plus D3.
Yep.
Yeah. So
now,
do we think Carlo's got something in his hand that's going to help this?
Yes, of course he does. He's got 2 cards he didn't throw away. We will 100% see. So he's going for this corner charge as well, so he doesn't have to roll the 2 dice. Yeah. So it's a 6.
So 3
7,
plus charge.
3 plus charge, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carlo's going to have. I'm forgetting the name of the card now from the High Sparrow, but it's what's it called? Protection of the Father. Mm-hmm. So they do a morale test, and they only take 1 wound for every 2 unblocked hits.
Yes.
And you can almost certainly see that come out. They've also got to activate, so he's probably got the second card in his hand. Might be a Mercy of the Mother. Yeah, he's in, which is what you'd expect with a reroll.
Did he have a reroll as well?
Yeah, because of Devastating Impact.
But he doesn't have the horses?
The horses makes it auto 6.
Oh, that's right, sorry, yes.
Which, just like to point out, that's how strong those cards are. Mm-hmm. Devastating Impact is good, is a really good card, and Targs love it with Khal Drogo.
Yeah.
Charge is obscene. So... we're going to see the...
So we're looking at 10 dice plus a D3, and then adding 2 additional hits to that because of Devastating Impact. Hitting on 3s with a reroll because of the charge.
Statistically, you should be looking at probably 9 to 10 hits.
9 to 10 hits, yeah. So that was D3 separate.
It's about, I think, statistically, I think he's due to miss 1. Oh, dice going everywhere. There's a 4 and a 3 that's rolled out, so they're both hits as well. So yeah, he's missed 1 on the initial roll, which, whoops. And then here's the reroll for the one that's missed, so it's... Yeah, there we go.
Yep. So we're hitting, so now we've got 13 hits total.
13 hits total.
Right, so so that'll be taken down to 6 if we do have the Protection of the Father.
Yep, and if it is, there you go. There's no way that Carlo makes this move if he doesn't.
Yeah. Oh.
That's a pass. The -1 from the corpse pile puts him down to 3.
3, that's right. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's 4 for the Warrior Sons, right?
Yeah. That's only just a pass, but it's a pass. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 6 wounds onto the poor fellows, and this is before they roll any defense saves.
Yeah. So now, potentially got some saves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6 pluses, I know. T-shirt saves, but
it's the 13, and he has to save. He actually has to save quite a lot of hits to make this really lower the number of dice. Yeah, so he saved 1. 2. 2. The way that bounced.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's 11 hits through.
So 5.
So he takes 5 wounds.
So he takes 5 wounds.
So he got two. This is the point. He got 2 saves, and he still needed to take 5. Like he still took 5 wounds. He only lowered it by 1. He didn't. He needed 2 more saves to save another one as well.
Yeah.
So it was unlikely he was going to take any less than that, really.
Yeah. But if you consider that is 2 of Stark's strongest cards with one of Stark's strongest killing units on a charge and only losing 5 models, that is a fairly good turnout for Carlo, to say the least.
It's not just only 5 models, Daryl.
Because they're going to get D3 back plus.
It's 5 models on a unit that's got a 6+ armor save.
6+ armor save. And they're going to get D3 back, if not more, depending on if he takes the bags or not. These guys have a champion of the faith in as well, so they get 1 back for the champion.
Guaranteed 1, maybe even 2.
Yeah.
They can legit activate and heal back up to full from where they are.
So is it only when they activate, or is it just every time they take a morale test?
No, the champion of the faith is every time they activate.
Yeah.
And the reinforcements ability, that same as the conscripts, is exactly the same as conscripts when they activate as well. I don't know what we see here. I mean, Carlo can happily take swords right now with Joffrey. He can take swords because he can expend tokens to just do auto wounds. The problem is the Berserker still gets to have another attack. So I don't know what I would do in this particular instance.
So do you think it would be worth taking money bags early to try and bolster that unit a little bit?
Yeah, I mean the issue here is, right, you take money bags, you heal them up. Okay, and they're they're taking 2 wounds so far. But then the Berserkers get another attack.
Yeah.
This time they don't get the reroll. This time they don't get Brand's ability. This time they also don't have the extra 2 hits from Devastating Impact.
Yeah.
But still have Caitlyn still at 10 dice.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily have another Protection of the Father either.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have another Protection of the Father. So that's not great. And then you've forgotten, or then we have to remember the Berserkers still haven't activated. So there's a 3rd attack coming in. This is a real clutch moment, I think, for Carlo, because if he takes swords, the Berserkers can probably kill the poor fellows.
Yeah.
Certainly if the poor fellows do any auto wounds to themselves. If he takes money bags, then it's 2 free attacks. And the question is 3 extra wounds realistically
enough to,
yeah, but this is the important thing. If money bags is enough to make him survive the 1st attack, he can then activate the units and heal up, which will make him survive, hopefully, the 2nd attack. So we're going to see him go for the money bags.
Yeah.
And the I was
going to say it would have to really, especially for that end of round test at -3. So now I think Carlo's hoping for some. So I mean, it's almost So we're going to see that free attack coming out now. Do you think Carlo potentially has some of High Sparrow's healing cards in hand?
He may do. There's one other card that he didn't throw away. I'd have thought that would have been one of the better cards of the Lannister deck. It wouldn't. It's not counterplot. We know that because he would have counterplotted sudden charge.
Yeah.
It's unlikely to be. It's more likely than anything else to be one of the High Sparrows cards. So it's either going to be another Protection of the Father, or it's going to be the forgetting the name of the card now, but the one that heals the unit when they activate.
Is that Blessings of the Mother?
I think it is Blessings of the Mother, yes. It could also be Wrath of the Warrior, which would be hilarious if it is, because these poor fellows might actually turn out to be pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
But I'd have thought that's unlikely, to be honest.
War Council.
So that's not great. That's only... I don't know why it's rerolling.
So Mercy of the Mother is... Restore 4 wounds, otherwise 2 wounds, and then Wrath of the Warriors gains +1 to hit and Sunder and So these guys would be hitting on 4, but with Sunder and Yeah. So it'd be on +1 to hit and Sunrun. So against Berserkers, the Sunrun's not really that big of a deal, is it? But
That's fine. The Berserkers did 7 hits in total. He only killed 6. So, there's a chance that they can die from the morale check here. No, there's not.
no.
Because the +2 counteracts the -1, so it's a net +1 that puts them on 2 morale.
Yeah.
They cannot die. They get a free token, and the Berserkers now have 1 more activation to try and kill them off.
Yeah.
But Carlo can just activate them.
So I think what we're likely to see here is Carlo activating this unit, getting the 3 models back, and potentially playing something like a Mercy of the Mother.
So he'll regen, assuming he passes, which he auto passes the morale check from the Champion of the Faith.
Yeah.
He activates here, and he heals 5.
Oh yeah, so he gets 2 back, and then 3 because he owns the money bag. Yeah, so it's probably not even worth using Mercy of the Mother, is it really? But the one thing that would be important, I suppose, is the fact that he wouldn't actually be scoring the point because he's contested.
That is correct. But does it matter if he's not scoring it? More importantly, the Starks
If they
aren't
aren't scoring it,
because
yeah.
Carlo's got Walder, and Carlo's winning by killing dogs.
Yeah.
Like, right now, this isn't in Blaidwyn's ballpark. Like, he needs to do something that's going to change the tempo of the game because Carlo is happy to do these kinds of trades.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we haven't talked about is the second unit of Poor Fellow on the right flank with Meryn Trent. Marching towards Rickon's great axes. That's going to be a different story.
Interesting, to say the least, yeah. So I believe, is that no net hits? Do they hit on 5s, Poor Fellows?
Yeah, they hit on 5s. So, yep, that's Poor Fellows. But you'll notice he activated the unit there, and they healed back up. Just as we said. So this is 2 attacks from a unit of fully juiced Umber Berserkers.
Yep.
And they've taken 3 wins.
Yeah. That's hard to swallow sometimes. Yeah.
Like,
did you not end up being Carlo at the end of the last War for the Wall? Was it you versus him?
So we played. It wasn't. I don't think it was the last game because we played in the penultimate round. Or was it? It might be. No, it was the last round, wasn't it? Me and Carlo played.
Yeah. You had table 1 for.
Yeah.
And he played a Faithless then, didn't he?
Well, of course he did. and I played my Free Folk list, and it's one of those games. Like, honestly, me and Carlo have played that matchup so many times.
Yeah.
Specifically, like not just those 2 armies, but both of us fielding them as well. Like, we've played that game maybe 5, 6, 7 times, and I was always slightly worse than Carlo. He's a better player than me. But we've got to the point now because we've played so much that I've improved. And that game, it ended on time, didn't it? We had to finish because of time.
Yeah.
And he was 1 point up on me at the game's end, but I was in a much better position to win the game on turn 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah.
I think it was turn 5 and 6. I think we just finished turn 4. So, I mean, this Faithless, in Carlo specifically, he has a strategy of how to win. And you really have to be playing on your game to beat him. He was telling me in the last round he played where he actually got knocked out of getting top spot for Assault on Riverrun. He what really did it for him is mounting the ride, got crown zapped on turn 1 and died.
Oh,
and it put him in activation down, and it just
from the start of the game.
Yeah, it just put him in the wrong place.
So we're seeing enemies suffer a panic test with the other. So when the unit suffers a panic test, they take a panic test -1. With the enemy row, it's another -1, and they panic because they've got the crown. So we're looking at there's 6 to start. So that's a fail. Because they're -2, but it's only a 1 on the D3, so we'll see Carlo. No, he's just taking the 2. Do you think it's better to just keep those? Because I feel like Catlin's probably going to be put on those next turn anyways, just to remove that.
Oh, I think that would be a mistake. If Caitlyn goes down onto the Bowman, Caitlin's not going on the Berserkers. And that means you can do something like weaken the berserkers, and suddenly they become a little bit less aggressive, a little bit more gummy. The real problem for Carlo here, and this is a genuine issue, these poor fellows in the middle are going to die next turn.
Welcome, Sunday Slaughter. Welcome. Yeah. So obviously we've got to keep in mind that Blaidwyn has got first activation next turn, and currently that unit poor fellows is on 3 models. So regardless of, I think to survive a full unit of berserkers, so it's probably going to be Catelyn on the swords, isn't it? To see them survive that is probably unlikely, to say the least.
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't have thought they do.
But
this is where the rest of Carlo's forces comes in. He's got the Warrior Sons on this flank.
Mhm.
It's unlikely that Preston Greenfield will do anything because he's sat on the objective token.
Is our poor fellows insignificant? They aren't, are they?
No.
No.
God no.
Yeah.
Imagine a unit this hard to kill being insignificant.
Yeah.
You'd be joking, wouldn't you? God, the very fact that you even insinuate that.
Well, hold on a minute. I mean, I suppose they're not as hard to kill, but conscripts are pretty good and they're insignificant. They're more killy but less survivable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And surrounded and exposed. No, not surrounded and exposed. What's it? What's the free flow card that allows you to pull people from other units?
Oh, regroup and reform.
Regroup and reform can make some insignificant units pretty tanky as well.
I mean, yeah, but we're talking about one card, and you're not exactly, it's not exactly a heal in the traditional sense.
No,
is it?
no. You are sacrificing others. Right.
No,
So.
just wrong rabble at the start.
Right. So we are waiting for, I believe, is it Blaidwyn's activation now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Carlo's got some options here, and if he wants to, Shaggy Dog could charge the poor fellows, and Shaggy Dog will probably kill 2 poor fellows. But Shaggy Dog won't kill 3 poor fellows, and there are 3 poor fellows in that unit. So Carlo's happy. Carlo does not care about Shaggy Dog.
Yeah.
What Carlo's worried about is Syrio-Forel. Syrio-Forel has a real chance of killing those poor fellows. Okay. Now, can Syrio-Forel get there? Probably not. It's a long bomb charge. Probably looking like it's through terrain.
What about?
It's unlikely to get there.
What about sudden advance? We've got 3 cards in hand still for.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah. What's it called? Sudden.
Swift advance.
Swift advance. Yeah. Sudden charge. Swift advance. Yeah. So that could potentially swing things a little bit. But we're seeing Shaggy Dog go into them. Is Shaggy Dog vicious?
He is. So there's a real chance that he could. There's a real chance he kills 2, right?
Yeah.
That's a given. There's a semi-real chance. I mean,
So
it's
it's double ones. It's double ones Carlo needs, right, to fail.
It's possible for the poor fellows to fail the check. Because he'll be on 4 morale base, -2, +2, so he's on 4. So actually, no,
and -1 for the corpse pile as well.
Yeah, so he goes up to a 4 morale, which means that it's more than just double ones.
It's failable, yeah.
That's also true as well. Devastating impact because Sansa's so he's popping Sansa for the anytime, and he's going to draw devastating impact into his hand, and because it's devastating impact, it gets 2 additional hits.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was it was mentioned by Bloodraven in the chat.
Oh, never mind. He's just. Oh, did he pull that from his discard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use Sansa to pull it from his discard. So he's going to do this to kill them. There you go. I hate devastating impact.
Yeah, it's a very good card. I think Stark's currently. It's funny because I was speaking to Scott about this. So before all lockdown happened and everything like that, and I think we had been talking about the potential for. Because what did I play? I played Lannister, War for the Wall, and I said I enjoy Lannister, but I don't enjoy Lannister for what it used to be. Because I used to always just play daft like Gregor lists and stuff. I said if I was to buy a new army, if I was trying to play competitively, and it was before I had seen any of the TTS stuff and saw how the league went and everything like that. I said I would buy Stark, and it's purely because of how I felt using the tactics deck. I always felt like my tactics deck was just a huge boon for us, whereas other factions I found myself playing, like playing cards and thinking, oh, this is pretty. I might use this sometime in the next couple of turns. But like sometimes with Stark cards, you can formulate a pan just by what's in your hand. Um, Obviously you'd never set in stone, but the tactics deck is absolutely fantastic, and they have got really good. So I think Sworn Swords are one of the best 5-point units in the game. I know Cutthroats have got a really
So the problem is you've got the cutthroats on the aggressive end of the scale.
yeah.
You've got wardens, I think, on the defensive end of the scale. I think
Hmm.
wardens are pretty good. Um, and then all of the other 5-point units are a bit meh. From like the Lannister guards, they were the defensive one,
They were,
but
yeah.
now that they need a guard captain to make them any good,
Hmm.
really.
So
So they're a
they're
6-point
not
unit straight
actually a
away.
5-point unit, yeah.
Yeah. So your next best option, like genuinely, from the middle ground is
Hmm.
Stark Sworn Swords.
Hmm.
They're defensive enough to be sustainable,
Yeah,
while also pumping out that little bit of aggression with their
yeah.
Stark Fury.
You've got your 8 dice. You've got the potential for critical blow, hitting on threes. You've got so that they're mini swarm bros, really, aren't they? But
I
just
mean,
without the
it
sunburn.
surprises me. It really surprises me that they've got 8 dice.
Yeah,
To
but I
be
think
honest.
I think the real kicker is the quality of attachments that you can get for them. So
Yeah,
Sirio Pharrell makes them absolutely monsters. Even
and
putting
then
like Brannon Hodo in them. So I know that's not usually somewhere where you would see them, but that's giving them an extra D3 hits. You can make a cheap but high quality unit even better with a
again,
selection of good attachments. Go on, sorry.
you're talking about making the unit a 6-point, 7-point unit though,
Yeah.
and then at
Hmm.
that point you're expecting it to be good.
Hmm.
It's like the simple fact is, if you take a 5-point base Stark Sworn Sword,
Hmm.
it's just very strong.
Yeah.
Same with the Wardens. Wardens are slow, which is a bad thing in a Song of Ice and Fire in general.
Yeah.
But Wardens for 5 points. They're actually pretty decent. The real issue is Cutthroats for 5 points. Defensively not great, but they're just so aggressively statted. Um, the Sworn Swords, the reason the Sworn Swords are so good is because they sit as a happy medium between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
They're a jack of all trades.
yeah,
Okay, we're seeing some. So we're not seeing a great deal of movement from the archers.
no.
Do you think that's in anticipation of the mountain that rides? Do you think they're trying to potentially wait him out a little bit, or do you think he's prioritizing the other side of the board?
The Mountain that rides will have to activate before the Archers because
Hmm.
of activation differences, I think. Oh no, maybe it looks like they won't. No, it looks like they won't right now.
No,
And I'm
Carlo's
guessing
still
that's
got
because I'm guessing Blaidwyn hasn't activated Aria. That's why.
right.
Um, but the problem is if the mountain goes before the archers,
Hmm.
the mountain has to make a decision. Then the archers could get a shot off
Yeah.
if he runs into them. And more importantly, Blaidwyn's first next turn, he can take the swords to shoot again. Start first thing next turn. So the mountain cannot advance within range of the bowman. And if the bowman advance at the last activation of the turn,
Hmm.
the mountain's going to get shot first thing next turn.
Yeah.
So the mountain has to be very careful. The positioning here is not brilliant for him, but there is also really nothing that Carlo was going to be able to do to prevent this.
Yeah.
The key, though, is that it would mean that the bowmen move off the objective
Hmm.
to threaten the mountain, which means that Bladewind doesn't get another victory point.
Is Thrones fully cover?
Yes, yeah. Every game mode is fully cover now, except if the token moves. If the
Moves, yeah.
token is a moving token, so Feast for Crows is a moving one.
So that's
Dark
that's
Dragons.
interesting. We didn't see Shaggy Dog claim the center token.
He couldn't realistically go there without standing in a really bizarre angle.
Right.
Um, he could have done it, but I guess he just didn't want to.
Hmm.
Might have opened him up for a charge from something as well.
So we've seen the
Berserkers
various.
in the
Go on.
center die. We wish the Berserkers in the center died. No, the Berserkers in the center did some killing. 3
Yeah,
steps.
they did a lot of killing. Yeah. Is there a lot of stock players in your meta? Yeah, we've ended up opposite trade colours.
It's the best way of doing it, right?
It is. Keep everyone on their toes. Keep you guessing. So, Mickey, do you want to mention anything about the first builder?
The first Builder League,
Yeah.
sure. So Carlo is a nutter, and we were talking, and the first Builder League is another kind of like thing that we've got planned. So this all stems from the idea that as a site, the ASOIAF Stats site wants to collect as much data as we can. Yeah, and the problem at the moment is that from tournament data and things, although the tournaments are very, brilliant to have, and the tournament data is brilliant to have, we're not seeing some of the characters that are underplayed get played, because guess what? They're underplayed. So things like Vargo. Vargo basically doesn't get played. We'd love to be able to say how good Vargo is,
Yeah.
but literally we don't know because there's no statistics on him. And
Mhm.
anyone who says, oh, he's really good or really bad, like, obviously people don't collect their own statistics.
Yeah.
So there's no conclusive data to sit and turn around whether he's worth taking or not, or why he's bad. So this is why we run the first builder tournament. You get random commanders from a random faction,
Mhm.
and you have to build some lists with them, play some game modes. We're using the beta game modes. Why not? The beta game modes are an interesting ones to try out, and it's an option for people to go out there, play armies that they're not familiar with,
Yeah.
and really test their list building skills, as well as obviously their play skill as well. There's only going to be 3 rounds, right? This is a league. This is more like a league format. There's only going to be 3 rounds. You're not going to have at the end a definitive winner, right? And anyone who thinks, oh, there's going to be a definitive winner at the end, there isn't.
Mhm.
All right. But what we're going to do is we're going to basically effectively create the ranking system from this.
Mhm.
So if you do really well and you win all 3 games in this particular tournament, you will go on to place yourself in effectively the top ranking, the top league.
Mhm.
And if you don't win all your games, if you come down lower, you'll obviously end up in a lower league.
Mhm.
And what this is to basically try and establish basically different levels of tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the better you do here, the
So it's
better,
going to be a seeding system essentially.
effectively a seeding
Yeah.
system. Yeah. Now, and what we've got planned is more random list tournaments. More builder leagues
Mhm.
where again you'll get random factions or random things. We'll play different scenarios.
Yeah.
And you'll get to try out a different. The idea being that each round you'll have to play a different faction and
Mhm.
prove you're good enough with that faction and
Mhm.
prove that you know how to build lists with it.
Yeah.
It is competitive. Like we don't want people just to taking it as complete memes. We want people to be trying, but also there's scope within list building to have those like bit weirder ideas, weirder lists that might work. And I think that's a real good thing. I think that's a positive thing. So it's free entry, completely free. Obviously, it's not going to start until the start of July. I
Yeah.
think it's the 7th of July, I think, or something like that.
Mhm.
To refresh my memory, but yeah, it's not really kicking off till then. And you've got plenty of time to, if you sign up now, you've got absolutely tons of time to sit and think about your lists that you want to bring.
Mhm.
The list.
Do some practice.
Yeah, I mean, I played some practice games this week. I drew Stannis 1 and Stannis 2. So I am playing Stannis in the tournament, which has given me hundreds of list building opportunities, he says, jokingly. Yeah, I've been trying some stuff out there, trying to make 2 lists that actually work in tandem that aren't basically the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be good fun, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be good fun while also being competitive. And you can go out there and try new factions. And right now, it's brilliant because we all talk about the distribution issues, and TTS solves the distribution
It
issues
does.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And you can get to play factions you've never played before in a competitive way.
And
So
I think what's really good, I think one thing that we took from the TTS league, the the initial one, was playing against different metas and ending up playing against opponents with complete different mindsets to your normal gaming groups and things, which is awesome. People's views on the game change quite hugely over the world. Metas are massively different, so with it being quite an open system, it's just great. It's great to get games in against people from all these. So tell people how to sign up for it. How do they sign up for it?
Sign up is super, super, super easy. You head over, or hopefully you've seen some of the banners and things we've been putting out there. If you haven't, you need to get yourself onto the NRG tournament Discord. The invite link that we've got is the discord.gg, and I think the one we're using, if you give me 2 seconds, because it won't run out, this one, all the other ones might run out. It's Y, capital J, A, capital W, 6KR. We'll stick that in chat anyway, if anyone's interested. But that you go on there, you sign up by just messaging Carlo when you're on there, or say just leave a message on there, tag Carlo, and say you want to get signed up, and then he'll drop you a message, and he'll give you your random faction, and obviously your two commanders from that faction.
Mhm.
And if you like everybody else in this tournament, I bet you'll get Vargo and something else. For some reason, our random dice or our random generator has favored Vargo hugely. I'm not even joking. I think like Vargo is in like 30% of people's choices or something silly. But what can we do? What can we do? So yeah, that's how you sign up, and then you've got a couple of weeks to prepare, as we were saying, and generally just have fun, enjoy yourself, get some practice games in. Overall, you can sit back and practice. Yeah, so that's the tournament. We are looking to run other things off the back of it. There's been talk of some alternative ideas as well. I quite like the idea where we bring a full, like a random, not a random faction that you play, but two randomly generated heroes or commanders, I should say, from across all commander variants, meaning that you could be stuck with, say, Vargo in Targaryens, and your second list might have to be Roderick in Starks. So they'll always be assigned to the ones they got. But then you've got a 2-list format with 2 different factions as well. I
Yep.
really like that idea.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But yeah.
So we've got discord.gg/YJ. I'm trying to copy, but my technophobia is really. Right, come on. Copy link address. Okay, right, let's see. So we are looking at this address for sign up. Oh, Mickey, you've already done it, man.
Yeah, of course. I'd just wait till you did it.
Yeah.
Giving you some pain.
Cool. Thanks, Mum. Right, so yeah, so as Mickey said, get over there, sign up, just tag Carlo in it, tell him that you want to join, and he will give you some commanders to make lists with, which will be awesome. So where are we up to with the game? Sorry, we went off on a bit of a tangent there, didn't we? So we're currently seeing a little bit more of a cramped board. Still turn 2, point a piece, and it looks like, yeah, so we're on to turn 3 now. Carlo up to 3, just because of the 2 that he's standing on. Blaidwyn up to 2 because of the one that he's claimed with the Stark Bowman. We've got Blaidwyn to activate first. We've seen 1 sudden charge and 1 devastating impact. He did bring devastating impact back with Sansa, I believe. 3 cards in hand for both players. We'd seen Northern Ferocity get discarded. And draw another one. Okay.
So again, like the person Blaidwyn didn't actually take letters because he replaces the effect on turn 2, but the person who's been dominating the letters spot has been Blaidwyn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Carlo has 12 cards in his deck. Blaidwyn has 14.
Yeah.
So Carlo has actually gone through more of his deck than Blaidwyn, and yet Blaidwyn is the one who is the person who's supposed to be controlling letters and drawing card
Yeah.
draw.
And
This,
we discussed this, and it was down
yeah,
to the appropriate discard, as well as obviously Carlo has been occasionally getting some extra cards with is it Merrin or Preston? Preston.
he does get some extra ones with Preston, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is like a key. Like he doesn't feel like he needs to generate lots of cards.
No.
He just needs to understand how to use the cards he's got,
Mhm.
and then throw them away if they're no good.
So what's your bets for first activation?
First activation, it's Blaidwyn to go first, isn't it? Is he within the long shot with Roderick onto the poor fellows? Because if he is, that's probably quite likely. If not, then we'll see. He's done himself no favors here because Shaggy Dog's in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the Sworn Swords could charge the Warriors of the Faith. I don't know.
So reminders, forests are cover and rough, but yeah, so they're not dangerous. I know. What's the other one? Impeding.
Hindering.
Yeah, so they're not hindering. So actually, it's not going to be a huge charge for the Sworn Swords with Sirio either, is it?
No. Afternoon tank. It's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. 3-2
Yeah.
to Carlo currently. Oh,
So
why is Carlo moving?
I don't really know because it should be Blaidwyn first, right?
Yeah, has he got the free maneuver?
I'm guessing that Carlo's checking something. I don't really know. Oh, he did. He picked up the free maneuver, right? Free maneuver retreat. Is that right? Yes. This subjective.
Oh yes, so yeah, I've got the board back to front. Yeah, so he's on the free maneuver and retreat. I think he's just trying to make sure that he can get out of the way of the berserkers, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then with a pivot, we just need to make sure we're still an inch away.
He's not having fun here removing units.
No. Yeah, we're definitely an inch away there, aren't we? Still remaining in the front for the Sworn Swords, which denies a first activation charge from Sirio, which means that Shaggy would either have to move out of the way or charge, because we wouldn't be able to see Blaidwyn fit half a trait onto the front of the Warrior Sons. So that's a clever placement there from Carlo.
Yep.
I think that's one thing that I've taken a lot. I think something that has made a huge difference to the way I think about my games now. And often I still get very caught up in I'm a total murder hobo, and I know I am, and I find it very difficult to get out of that mindset. But watching higher level players play and seeing how people can, even just with a pivot, change the options of their opponent so drastically, it's really it makes a big difference. It does make a huge difference. So we're seeing Sansa's beginning of a turn movement there.
Yeah.
So Warrior Sons 4-up save.
Yep.
Can use a faith token to make it a 3-up save.
Not quite. It gets +1 to defense save for each of its destroyed ranks.
Right, okay.
So it will
that makes
actually
no
still be a
difference. Yeah, that makes no difference. So
the key is because again the 4 morale, even with the minuses, they probably won't fail the morale.
Yeah.
And
we've got a Champion of the Faith in here, right?
yeah. And the key here is obviously if they don't fail morale, it's unlikely that the Starks. The overall attack here is unlikely to eliminate the Warrior Sons. Simple as that.
Yeah.
That's the net result of this.
So drastically changes what we thought could potentially happen. That is fantastic for Sansa as well. You know, like not Sansa, sorry, Arya. That's another really, although it's only once per game, it is can set up some pretty devastating turns. I know I've often used it quite because I use a list with Roderick, NCU, and Sirio in Berserkers. Yeah, me.
Disorderly charge. Can I just point out that charging in this game is the most frustrating thing I
Yes.
have ever seen.
Yes.
And yes, Bloodraven, it is the 3 better game modes. Charging in this game mode is the most. This game is the most frustrating thing because it's the only thing. I mean, yes, there's dice rolls and yes, there's randomness, but like rolling a 1 on a guaranteed charge is just. It's just like
Miserable.
frustrating. It's miserable.
It's absolutely miserable. And the worst thing is when you've got a 2+ charge and you just know that one's coming. Yeah.
It's the. I don't know how I would change the charge mechanic in this game because I don't actually think there's anything inherently wrong with it. It's just it's always a sour taste in your mouth if you end up failing charges
So
and the enemy
crushing.
doesn't.
So did he use?
Labels. He
Wow.
must have used Dark Fury, I'd have thought.
Wow. So that's 8 dead straight away.
They do get saves.
No, Sirio Pharrell
Oh
sixes.
yeah, precision, isn't it?
Yeah, but did he
Oh
use?
jeez.
So that's. Did he use Criplo the Stark? Yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
used Stark Fury. Ouch. So that's 2 more saves for Carlo to make.
Yeah. He just needs to roll the dice again.
Fails both of those. Wow.
Dead. It was always going to come down to the marrow check anyway. Like he was. I was going to say he was never going to wipe out. Statistically, he was never going to wipe them out
Until he rolls 4 sixes.
Yeah. Especially with the disorderly as well. That wasn't even a reroll. That was just a flat roll. This unit could well just disappear. To be honest. Yeah, he's all right. He's all right. That's all they needed. They literally all they needed was to not die.
Yeah. So, do you think we're going to see do you think we're going to see those guys activating? And hopefully, well, I mean, what I'm expecting is for them to activate, to then see a Mercy of the Mother and hopefully a passed morale test for the Champion of the Faith, because that'll be 6 models back. Oh, that's salt in the wound, isn't it? Just one from Stark Fury.
Yep. Sirio, man. Sirio. So Carlo's got some options. He can take money bags. That's not an awful choice, because it will prevent him dying to Shaggy Dog.
But remember that wasn't their active. Oh, there's the sword still available on the board.
Swords are still available, and I would have, to be honest, I'd advise him to take swords.
Right.
Just to stop the attack coming back in.
Right. And do you
he
think
could?
I suppose he could, because Shaggy Dog doesn't take saves away, does it? It's just got vicious.
Yeah.
So he would be on a 2+ save with a faith token.
And you can counteract that with taking High Sparrow onto swords and putting High Sparrow onto the unit.
Yeah.
They have to remember that Carlo wasn't first. They haven't changed the first player token, so Walder's not active in terms of disabling a unit's abilities, which would have been really handy because he could have just nerfed the Sworn Swords into oblivion.
Yeah.
I think, what would I do? I take swords with High Sparrow, risk getting killed.
Yeah.
You probably get killed by Shaggy, actually. In fact, you almost certainly aren't going to get killed by Shaggy because you pop a token for +1 defensive saves for each missing rank. So they
you're
go up
on
to
2
+2.
plus, yeah.
And he's charging you in the front. There's not an easy way you can get to a side charge.
No.
So yeah, I take swords because I'm not going to die. And I've got cards in hand that I might play in defensively, and yeah, I think this is a fairly safe option for Carlo to take.
Unless
What
we've got a swift advance on the berserkers.
Yeah.
Blaidwyn always has the option of taking the horse with the berserkers as well. I mean, I don't feel like he would, because I think so even if he did, I think it would probably be more likely to take them towards the poor fellows.
I also think that if he had Swift Advance on the Berserkers, that actually would have been his first move of the game. He would have done the Sirio Pharrell move, potentially first, or he could have even moved Bran first and then make the charge.
Yeah.
So you've got both options, and then doing that one first, which you wouldn't expect to do that much damage. Whereas the Berserkers coming at the flank, you would expect to do that much damage. I don't think Blaidwyn has got Swift Advance in hand. That objective is not the D3 plus wounds objective, is it? Oh, it is the D3 plus. It is the D3 wounds objective. Holy balls! Yeah, he could.
Do you think he's not clocked onto that?
I don't know.
Is he fully on it? Yeah.
Yeah, he controls it. And he chooses not to attack. Yeah, Carlo chooses not to attack.
So we've got Catelyn going down, yes, on the horses. So, but the real question is, are we going to see him move towards finishing off these?
He could just move forward.
Yeah, he's going to try and finish off the Warrior Sons, isn't he?
You just do that. They're in arc. He can come in. Oh no, they're not in arc. I do not get this play unless he's going to pivot at the end. See, this comes with its own set of problems. And if Blaidwyn doesn't do this right, yeah, okay. That's the right thing to do. It is contested. It's a weird one. The wording on the objective is while controlling it. You don't control it if you're outranked. So yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that wouldn't have actually that wouldn't have actually caused the D3 wounds, would it?
So Carlo's got to do a retreat here, right?
I believe so.
It's hard because the thing is, are you realistically going to get onto a good number of wounds where the berserkers don't just mince you still? Oh, I don't know. I do not know what I would do here as Carlo. Your other option is just to heal the 3 for money bags. That's not a great option. You know, you're getting 10 dice with a D3 from Bran coming in. You could take letters and weaken them, I suppose. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. What else could you do? Do a retreat action, but then they're just going to get charged anyway, because they can't retreat far enough away not to get charged.
Nope.
So retreating is a mistake.
Do you think it's worth just trying to do some damage with them?
Given that they've already missed the way that the interaction works with the point and the melee attacks from the Warrior Sons, I don't think he's going to. Either way, he would have made their attack with the Warrior Sun. So they clearly already think that that's being played. So it looks like he's reading it now, actually.
Yeah.
Looks like it's being read now, and we'll see how that gets played out.
I think personally, if I knew my unit was going to die, I would just take an activation with them regardless.
To be fair, Bloodraven does actually share a very good point here. You could maneuver the mountain to the point where he would get a charge off onto the Berserkers. It's not a great odds for you, but it would certainly.
Because you can charge through your own unit, but you don't have line of sight. Do you have that? You don't have line of sight through your own unit, do you?
You don't have line of sight, so you can't even do it. Yeah, he'd have to position himself further out so he could have line of sight. So you'll see my little grey hand, probably about here, is where he'd have to position himself so he could see the unit. I don't know. I don't know about this one. Carlo's gone into a little bit of AP. He's going to activate them. They are going to heal up. There's a subtlety here, actually. By doing this, they're on 3 ranks still, which means they get huge pluses to their armor saves when he spends the tokens. And they pass. There's 2 guys. They get another faith token.
Is there a Mercy of the Mother Run there?
It doesn't look like there is. He's doing a retreat action. Wow. Okay. And he rolled a 1.
So it goes down to. Well, it's essentially negated by the fact that he's on rough terrain.
Yeah. So he moves 5. I mean, this does. It does make the Berserkers have to come out to attack him, rather than just.
Do you think he's trying to pull them off the objective?
Yeah, and that's a valid thing to do. I've got to be honest right now. Like, I think Carlo's not played this badly at all. I don't think Carlo played badly, but I'm struggling to see how the game will continue to go in his favor.
Yeah.
The Berserkers and that Z4Carlo hit. Just, I mean, that
Yeah.
brings him to.
I think eight wounds before you've even rolled any save dice is hard to stomach for anyone.
Just like to point out that that's more wounds than a giant does.
When it's on its lowest, when it's on its most wounds.
Not when it's on its lowest, because then it does 7. It's plus because it's D3 plus 2. It can do 7 wounds plus a D3.
Oh, that's nice because it goes up to 5, doesn't it? Yeah.
But on average, it's more wounds than a giant will do on any attack ever.
But you feel both his saves, so that did 10 wounds. That did 10 wounds from the attack, didn't it? So that's still more than a. Just giant can do 10 wounds at its best.
Yes, and that's assuming you're charging a giant with 1 health point left.
Yeah.
Which is, scary. But yeah, so that's Z4Carlo in a unit of Sworn Swords, which is Zero 2 points.
Serios 2, yeah. I mean, so there's the Aria attacks of 3, but I mean it's a 3-point NCU. Who cares?
Exactly.
So that's in total they're the same price as 1 giant.
Yeah, and it is a 7-point unit though. That's pretty scary. They have 12 wounds, although the giants have the effectiveness of 12, I guess.
They got 5 or 6 wounds. They got 1 more, didn't they? They got added another one.
But they have to get the double hit. Anyway, should stop comparing cross factions. Not useful. Oh look, the Berserkers charged in the front, which is what we all knew was going to happen, and the Berserkers scored. Whoops, one of those was a hit. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits, 3 misses, 7 hits.
They aren't weakened, so that's What options are we going to see? So we're going to see if most likely a faith token. Yep. So we're getting +2 to save rolls, -1 from Sunderland. So we're getting 3+ saves. Is there going to be protection of the father?
It don't look like it. Oh, there we
go. What we've got? Well, it's the rock. So +1 to defensive saves. If we've got money bags, which it doesn't, D3 automatic hits. So he's on 2+ saves currently.
Yep. It's +2 from the thing, and then he gets a +1, and then he gets a -1.
Yeah.
So he's net 2, and his armor's a 4 base, so 2+.
So that's everything?
That's literally everything saved, yeah. But he's going to reroll one there. Yep, that's everything saved.
And that's an automatic morale pass, so he just gets that token straight back. That's got to burn a little bit for for Blaidwyn, but
I mean, he had to hope on. He had to
he
hope
did, yeah, of course.
that he had the +1, which he knew that. That's why he could take that retreat. Still not great for him because Blaidwyn's up on scoring victory points. This
And I think in reality, Blaidwyn shouldn't be like that unit of so-and-so shouldn't be as healthy as they are because of that little error with the objective over there. Like there should have been an attack. I can't remember what warrior sons get on the 3rd rank.
Bugger all.
Bugger all, is it that
If I
bad?
remember
Is it
rightly,
4?
yeah, it's. I think it's a 4, which is like the standard last rank for most units, isn't it? It would have been panicked and vulnerable though. Maybe they're already panicked, I guess, but
Yeah, with the
with the
warrior sons, yeah, 4
tokens.
4 dice with battle prayer. That's what it's called.
I mean, realistically, with 4 dice, he could probably expect to hit on 3+s. He could probably expect it with 2 or 3 of them. Then the saves will come out from the Starks doing 1 or 2 saves. So probably realistically, there'd be maybe 1 or 2 wounds at most, statistically. And then there would have been a panic check at flats, which is statistically passed. So there is a panic token on them, so that could have helped. But yeah, to be honest, it might have been 1 or 2 more wounds at most, assuming no token. So, it's all interesting because the game is actually like far from over.
Yep.
But the game also looks like it's going to, pardon me, voice, going to slide away from Carlo.
Yeah, Carlo's still on 2 points. So he's got the potential of
3 points. 3 points.
no
Oh, you
2
mean
objectives.
2
Yeah,
objectives.
2 objectives. So he's going to be getting those 2 points at the end of the turn. Are we going to see Walder hit the crown next turn? Do you think?
Well, it doesn't really matter.
I mean, it means that next turn he's getting another VP from Shaggy Dog.
He's going to activate Walder when one of the girls gets activated. Like he doesn't want to take the last zone. He wants to take the last zone. He doesn't want to take the penultimate zone. Right? In that he benefits from taking crowns. He controls crowns anyway with Joffrey. So Walder's still activated, but he wants the option for a sudden charge to be taken away. Oh no, he just takes crowns then.
Yeah.
So he takes. He doesn't dissuade from sudden charge here, but what this does allow is it means that the mountain doesn't have to take a -1 panic check and just evaporate. But Walder goes onto there and it does the wound, and more importantly, he loses vicious. Although that's probably not going to matter.
No.
-1 panic check on Roderick's unit.
And they
Can't
panicked.
die.
And they panicked.
Can't die. There's -2 as well, and die whatsoever.
So are we is he in within 6 inches of this corpse pile?
He is indeed.
Good. So we're seeing -2, but then +1 for dials further. Or is it +1 for every additional?
It's +1 for each additional.
So it's
net
-2
0.
+2, yeah. That's a pass.
But it's a panic.
Yeah.
So it's a 2 and a 6. It's a pass.
We roll a 6.
Yeah, statistically, that's actually not unlikely that it fails here. It's more likely to fail than pass.
So they're base 6, right?
7. For the
7.
bowman.
Yeah.
And that'll do it. That's not a 5 or a 6.
4 models.
So now it's just Roderick. And more importantly, the bowmen on 1 rank are meh. To be honest, they're super meh. 3 dice with the short sword, 4 dice with the volley.
So
it's just not as effective as they could be.
Question, Mickey. Next turn, would you zap that unit for 1 and get rid of the bowman, or would you zap the dog?
You zap the dog. I mean, it depends. It depends a lot on what he does with the poor fellow unit, really. But you zap the dog. You zap the dog because the dog is worth a victory point for killing it, and 2 victory points per turn for the objective it's on. You zap Roderick, and it's worth a point, and it's only worth 1 victory point for each turn it's on. So it is true if you zap Roderick, he probably won't replace it with anything. Whereas zapping the dog, he can replace something else onto that point. so there's like the effectiveness of the dog being killed is lesser. But I think you achieve more by killing the dog.
Right.
Personally, but the thing is, you could crown zap and he could actually take the dog and then go on to the crowns and force the panic check on Roderick again.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course you could. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can kill both. Like, if you can kill both with a crowns activation on Walder next turn, rip.
Yeah, that's two VP in a 2 activation swing.
And three victory points a turn that Blaidwyn is going to be losing out on.
He's going to be, yeah.
And then it doesn't matter what happens with the Warrior Sons over on that other flank.
So do you think that Carlo
Do
you think Carlo's trying to maneuver here so that he can potentially charge Shaggy with the mount that rides?
I think he's positioning here so he can control the token and offering himself to the Berserk, the Great Axes.
The Great Axes.
He wants the Great Axes to come forward because that gives him the option of then nuking Roderick with no replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Mountain that ride can come forward, doesn't have to worry about the bowman.
Mm-hmm.
He can either go claim the objective, which would be brilliant for Carlo with extra 1 hand size,
Mm-hmm.
or he can swing round onto the side of the Great Axes. And although the Great Axes are great, they'll die to Gregor. You know, they'll die in droves. Because everything dies in droves to Gregor. There's not an unrealistic chance that it's just going to be 4 dead Great Axes on the charge, and then they have to take a panic check. So
potentially more with Crit Blow. And what's the Great Axe? So the Great Axe is the not as good morale, right? Yeah, 6+. So the Berserkers are 4, they're 6.
And they'll be on -2 for corpse piles.
And
-1, sorry.
So he doesn't have Vicious, though, does he, Gregor?
No, he doesn't have Vicious.
He doesn't need Vicious. I know he doesn't need it, but just because I'm so used to clicking stuff having Vicious.
Yeah.
Okay, so we saw a maneuver. We saw some line of sight stuff opening up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think actually he couldn't charge, could he? Because there's no space for his base, anyways. But do you think Gregor could make that? So 5. So he's 14 inches away here. So it'd be a 5 move plus another 5, which would so you would need a 4+ to successfully charge. It's not really great odds, is it? It's 50-50.
I mean, more importantly, he can't charge Shaggy Dog with the Mountain.
No, I'm talking about Roderick.
Oh, Roderick.
Yeah.
He could charge Roderick, but I mean, that would be hilarious if he does. Because, yeah.
That would be a bit of a slap in the face, wouldn't it? He
doesn't really need to. And the risk panic check, like, legit, the risk panic check that he could fail and die from.
So that's the problem.
Is actually real.
Considering he's panicked as well, and he's next to a corpse pile.
So I mean, what are the statistics? There's a 1 in 6 chance he rolls a 1 on a dice.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the reroll panic, there's 2/3 chance he gets the 3. It's a 2 chance. There's he'd be at -1, so he's testing on a 5. No, he's testing on a 4. There's a reasonable chance.
He's testing on a 5.
No, he's testing on a 5, right?
Yeah.
He's testing on a 5. So, you know, statistically, you're probably looking at something between, and on the initial roll, it's going to be about 1/6 chance, roughly. It's actually slightly less than that, but 1/6 chance that the Mountain dies. That's a bit of rounding gone in there, and it's not actually as close as it should be. But with the panic token, obviously that gives you second opportunities, and including combinations of rerolls. You know, rolls a 1 and something else, or he doesn't roll the 3. You can make him reroll that. It's probably about a 1 in 4 or a 1 in 5 chance that the Mountain just dies.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty.
I have to work out the exact number and the exact figure, but that sounds about right.
So Forio is just pointing out the fact that that panic token should be gone now, but I think that's just something they've missed in game. But just like in the TTS league, where we're making sure that we don't intercede in people's games and just let them play out. So
their mistakes are theirs to make.
Paid mutiny. When an enemy combat unit activates, that unit must pass a morale test, and or its attachment lose all abilities.
And suffer D3
And
wounds.
suffer D3 wounds. If you control money bags, they do. They suffer D3. Sorry, minus. Oh, that's him gone. Yep.
That's a dead unit.
Yep. So that was -2 because of the money bags, and 1 from the corpse pile. That's another.
So right there, that's why Carlo was doing what he was doing, because he knew he had paid mutiny in hand.
Yeah.
He could take that risk.
Mhm.
That was going to be a -3 check because of the corpse pile
Mhm.
and controlling money bags.
Yeah.
You know, that's a free for roll he's looking at. Is a 10
plus. Yeah, 10 plus is difficult roll.
And he only needs to roll he only needs to roll like, well, he only needs to fail it. You know, he's not enough models to survive the test. There you go. That is how you kill bowmen. You just make them run away. It's worth noting the bowmen have lost every single one of their 12 wounds this game
To panic tests.
2 crowns panic tests.
Yeah.
Well, and a
the
little bit
paid
of card
mutiny.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So board activation is now equal 4 for 4.
And at the start of next turn, the first thing that Carlo does is kill a dog. Therefore, it's actually in Carlo's favour into the next turn.
Yeah.
There's honestly the way he's got rid of Roderick is the way he comes back into this game, and the fact that the Berserkers didn't do nearly enough to the Warrior Sons. That doesn't mean, I mean, this Sirio and Berserker unit combo can do some serious work, but it is looking better. It's looking better.
So are Great Axes 4? Yeah, they are, right. So yeah, Carlo's just doing some measuring just to make sure that this charge becomes as difficult as humanly possible.
Just like to point out, Furioku said it's the board state is now correct because there's no more panic token on the bowman. So, the Mountain that Rises is skirting right around the edge there. So the Mountain that Rises is going for this objective. Just being like, you know, do something with these Great Axes. Commit with these Great Axes somewhere. Do something. I like this play. I think it's just a.
That's the red rag to the bull, isn't it? He's trying to. He's purposely moved to a distance which is going to be, even with a swift advance, a 4+ charge. So it's always going to be a difficult charge to make. I think he's intentionally sort of trying to goad those Great Axes away from the center of the board, where they would probably be a lot more useful. And if you think about it, for that unit, such a slow unit, and considering the terrain that's on the board, for it to spend at least 1 turn, potentially 2, chasing this unit to the side of the board for the sake of 1 VP, it's a huge commitment. How much are the 7 points? It's quite a big commitment in resources for potentially very little return, especially the fact that if he fails this charge, if he even is going to charge, if he fails it, the Mountain that Rises is going to be able to literally just skirt around him again. And even if he could literally walk onto the objective, get a card, and then march back off it, and keep that unit sort of semi-occupied for the whole time. I think it's a really good distraction technique, and I think that's one thing about the small. I tell you what, though, and I know you were saying comparing cross factions is not a good thing to do, but Andy's Kickstarter, so I know he is bullshit, but It makes every person who's tried to put Jorah moment on the table a little bit disappointed
Um,
as an individual
yeah.
model.
I mean, you're talking to someone who believes that Jorah Mormont is an essential combat piece for the Targaryens to make good lists.
What, the single model?
Yeah, yeah. Genuinely. I don't think he's good. I'm not going to sit here and defend him and say he's good.
No.
He's not. But understanding the Targs means you have to understand why Jorah fits in and why he's good for the Targs. Right? He's not a good model. He's not a good stat card.
Yeah.
He doesn't offer anything from his stats that
Mhm.
you really, really need.
Mhm.
But the Targs need activations. And a 3-point activation right now on something that
For
can
them,
actually
it's
charge.
yeah.
It can proc morale test.
Mhm.
It can give out tokens for things like the secret
We've
mission
just seen a
thing.
failed panic test on the wolf.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a dead wolf. That's a point for Carlo. I mean, he scores the 2 VP for owning it, but that's a VP for Carlo. And
That is hilarious.
wow.
To be fair,
Okay.
it's a -3 check. You know, it's an overall -3 check.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same as testing on a 5.
Mhm.
And like I just said, even without a panic token, that is statistically
Yeah.
not uncommon.
No.
With a panic token, that becomes actually quite common. Now, it wasn't panicked, but yeah. There we go.
RIP in the chat for Wolves boys. I'm wearing the Direwolf NRG T-shirt just to make things a little bit more palatable for the Wolf fans, for the furries. So, end of turn. We're just waiting for. Why did he just lose a VP there?
I don't know. Because he only scored 4. He scored
No,
1 last turn.
you
He
score
scored 1
additional.
last turn.
You score it's 2 VP for this one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so he scored 1 last turn. He
Yep.
scored 1 unit portfolios, that's 2. And then he scored the middle victory point, that's 4.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
I don't understand where the 5th one's come from, because this token here with the Sundering and Vicious isn't controlled.
Yes. Oh yeah, because he's not on all the way on top of it. Right. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So, now that changes Carlo's turn 1 play, right? That changes Carlo's turn 1 play quite drastically.
Does this? Yeah, probably. I mean, you could just take horses and skedaddle. I mean, there is a free move on these. Oh my lord, there's a free movement on the King's Guard unit
No,
log.
that's the. Oh, so it's Merrin's unit.
Could
What does
Merrin
Merrin
just
do?
charge?
Is Merrin the free token if you've got the crowns?
Yeah.
Condition. I'll tell you. I've literally got a list.
It's alright, I've already got them up. Merrin Trant is the free condition token if you control thing within long range. So yeah. He could totally just charge first activation this turn into the Great Axes, because the Great Axes don't care about. Well, he doesn't care that the Great Axes will do lots of damage to him because they're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So he could
I
just do
think
that to tie them up.
one of the problems that we've got is we don't have any faith tokens on them, so their auto D3 wounds is going to be non-existent. Although that's
You're
probably
not really. I mean,
not
you
the
don't really care if you kill them. You're not
greatest.
trying to kill them.
Yeah. Do you think it's just total roadblock? What about a free attack? What about a free attack with the warriors of the warrior sons into the berserkers?
Berserkers. Yeah, you
So
could, I suppose.
you could always stick Waller down onto there, get them to remove their abilities, so no no skin changing, no sundering, no influences, and then just
Well, the Caitlyn will still affect the influence from Caitlyn will still come down because it's yeah. Because the
it's
influence still has
attachments.
effect.
Yeah, it's attachments and abilities, not influences yet. And cards, any cards would still take effect, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But still, losing sundering is great. And
Starks don't have a lot of cards that activate when you're in combat like this. This is the one thing that Starks don't have a lot of.
yeah,
You know, they're not Baratheons.
it's a good thing all the units have got it already, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So he spends the Faith token for +1 to hit. So he's rolling 6 dice on 2 ranks of Champions of the Faith. He is running... What else? The +1, so that's going to be hitting on 2s. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Oh no, it's not 2s. They don't get +1 to hit. I'm thinking something
No,
else.
3s. Yeah, they get Vicious and Sundering.
No, they become panicked and vulnerable. Different.
So Panic's alright, but
The vulnerables
well, is it the 6+ saves?
on Berserkers, yeah. He's just going to get more wounds through. They're 5+ on.
6+ Berserkers.
No, they're 5+.
Oh. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Thing.
So for there you go. The vulnerable is going to be good. Yeah. So getting to reroll those.
I'd like to Carlo to done a shifty move here actually.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
He could have shifted along to the right.
He could have, which would have taken him.
But it does open the flank up to Sirio again, unlike the moment.
Does it though? Because they can't draw line of sight of the unit then?
Good point. Yeah. Look at that bounce. 6. So he can. And the panic's good.
So
good
if he rolls, so if he rolls this.
7 on 5s with the -1. That's a 5 still though.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be enough.
And you had already, he was already panicked and panicked and vulnerable, wasn't he? Didn't have to spend a token, or did he spend a token for that?
He spent a token for that. They should remove that token.
Right. So things have taken quite a drastic turn for in Carlo's favour, haven't they?
Yeah, it has. I mean, he's up activations. The dog phalanx panic test is hilarious, to be honest. But it's still not brilliant. 1, 2, 3. I mean, Carlo's in a winning position this turn. Carlo can win this turn if he's clever.
Right.
Blaidwyn can stop Carlo winning this turn. But the ball is definitely in Carlo's court. Yeah, so this is what I actually wanted to see from Blaidwyn, because this is not a winning play. Yeah, you might think I'm crazy when I say this. Him attacking the champions here and killing them is good, right?
Good for Carlo, or for him.
It's good for Blaidwyn.
Right.
But it won't win him the game. Like, it'll go another victory point up.
Do you think you'll kill them?
Yeah, there's a good chance he will. I mean, because they've only got one. They've only got one save now, one extra save, which counteracts the sundering.
So there's no sundering on them because of.
Yeah.
So
dear God,
so
they'll be saving on
3s.
2s again.
No, 3s. So they start at
3s.
4, goes to 3s, but we've got Protection of the Father.
So these cards you should be expecting to come out now because they hadn't been played earlier.
Yeah.
And like we've been saying, Carlo has only got 8 cards in his deck. He's seen over half the deck.
Yeah.
Right. Blaidwyn still seen less cards.
That's 2 saves.
Yeah.
So, are we?
So that was an activation. And he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
How on earth?
What's Northern Ferocity again? Gains. Oh, so it does gain Sundering because of the card.
Back.
Yeah, sorry, that's my mistake. So Carlo's attacking back right. Again, this is something that you were talking about. I would have liked to have seen Carlo shift and realign over to the left-hand side. He could have walked himself considerable.
No, that was the armor save.
Was it?
Yeah, I think the first one was from Bran. The first 2 saves we saw were for the brand skin changing, I think.
Oh, right, okay.
No, it was. No, it wasn't, because he doesn't get them. I don't know. I have no idea what that first initial save was. But then they passed the morale check. So, moral of the story, right? The Berserkers have now activated and they've shifted along a little bit. There's no way in which they control the token unless they pivot off it when this unit dies, which, by the way, doesn't happen. And Carlo can shimmy along if he wants on the attack back. Gets him further away from Sirio, and he's not going to be scoring that victory point. So Sirio has to stop. Sirio is the only unit left on the board that can stop the poor fellows from taking the central objective.
Which, unless he's got a swift advance and manages to take the horses, or manages to take the horses, he won't be able to do, right?
Yep. And Carlos should be tased. Carlo, you'd thought, will take the horses away from him at some point. So we see the High Sparrow come out, and we see the heals, I assume, come onto the Warrior Sons, although he could be interested in taking the vulnerable or panicked off Gregor. No, it's going to be the Warrior Sons healing back up. So Sirio can charge the
Warrior Sons.
The Warrior Sons. Yeah, I agree, Bloodraven. Completely agree. If he can stop Blaidwyn from charging him this turn, it doesn't matter. I agree, he should have taken the horses for it. He didn't need to heal up the Warrior Sons. He doesn't care if his Warrior Sons die. That's the funny thing. It's not actually relevant this turn.
No.
Now, the one thing, of course, we do forget is that there is another sudden charge, I believe, still to come out.
There is one left yet.
Which would obviously
and a swift advance as well.
Yeah. So that would scupper Carlo's plan dramatically. And Carlo, by actually healing the Warrior Sons here, he baits Blaidwyn into thinking he needs to finish them off. Or do something, maybe. I don't know.
Realistically, the course of this game's decided over the next 2 or 3 activations, isn't it?
Yeah. If Blaidwyn engages with Sirio Farrell into these, if this is what he's looking to do, is to set up an engagement into these Warrior Sons on the flank.
He's essentially conceding, isn't he?
He is essentially conceding.
Yeah.
There we go. There comes the pivot. It does mean horses is gone, which means that Carlo's got no easy way of getting onto that central corpse pile now. He hasn't got the double move that he might need to do it. But I mean, I don't know what the distance is there, because I can't measure it. But if that distance is 4, then he's fine.
Yeah.
If that distance is any more than 4, it's going to be difficult for him to get the corpse pile. He can get about, I think, at the angle on a side pivot like that, I think you can gain. It's probably something horrible like route 2 or route 3 extra distance. It's not even that, actually. It's like route 2 over 2 or something like that. Or route 3 over 2. Something like that. Anyway, he would gain a little bit of extra room, probably about half an inch. I don't know how big the trays are. I should probably work all this out, don't I? I always do these mathematical calculations when I'm in my practice games, and then I come into games and commentate on them and then completely forget what the maths is. Because I forget what the measurements are. It's the maths.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Is he going to go to try and charge this unit in the rear? In the back over here? He shouldn't.
Who? Which unit in the back?
As in, he wants to charge the
charge that unit, yeah.
It's a mistake because it's a massive charge and he won't make it. And Carlo's, doing the sensible thing here. I think Carlo can just move back. He's just
going to shuffle back a little bit.
Because he doesn't need to be engaged at all. Okay, he decides not to.
Where is the token? That's all. I'm not sure where the token actually is.
What token?
The token for the objectives that the poor fellows are standing on.
Oh, yeah.
So we're seeing a retreat.
No. Charge. What? What? The Swift Advance charge was an option from the Stark player.
Mm-hmm.
To close the distance, charge in, and then knocking down a rank, which would have been enough to contest. I...
He's going to retreat the warrior sons onto the objective.
Yeah, you could do that. It does mean that the Warrior Sons have to roll
A good. Yeah.
number. Like, this is a mistake if he wants to do that, because he would have been better off just marching forward.
So there's no negative to. So I think realistically what he was thinking is if I get the charge, great. I get a few hits in, and that's that. If I fail it, I'll still pass my morale test anyways, and I'm still going to be a minimum of 6 inches forward, which will still block the zone that they need to be in. So what's this charge now? Actually, this is only a 3-inch charge, isn't it?
Yeah, this is in.
Has he got? Has he used both these devastating impacts? He has. Oh no, he hasn't because he got one back.
He got one back.
So you could potentially re-roll this as well.
We'll see. It looks like I don't know.
If he angles, this could be a close. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was going to move on to the token there. Yeah, he should 100% angle
Yeah.
to make it slightly lower, but it looks like it can't.
No.
So he's charging at a 7-inch, which is going to be 3+ on the dice.
Call it Mickey. Pass or fail.
I'm going to say pass. Because I want the game to actually be interesting. If he fails, the game is pretty much over.
That's
Hey.
pass.
Told you, mate.
Right, so obviously we don't have the old rule with the extra hits, but they've just got extra dice for that. So, but they won't get Executioner's Fury. There's no ignorance saves, and we know that Gregor's got a ridiculously good save. They're not Sundering or anything either, are they? Because they don't need it. So
They really are like not that great.
Yeah.
Not anymore. They're there to. What you should be doing is withstanding a charge from them. You know, use them to withstand a charge, and
Well,
then
that's why Bran and Hood are typically in the Monte, just to guarantee that disorderly.
And then you literally obliterate the enemy unit.
Yeah.
When you activate back. Press the advantage, so they get crit blow. That's fair enough, but it's 5. It's not 5+. It's not Roderick. So it's just a crit blow, which, yeah, great. You got 8 dice with rerolls. He's got Sundering. You got vulnerable on him. There's a chance he can fail lots of dice here, but
8 hitting on 3s. He's not managed to keep all those dice in once.
no. So to be the physics with the bounciness when they're rolling around in the air does affect that. I don't know why he tries to re-roll dice like that.
I don't know.
You just select the dice that you fail and re-roll them.
Yeah.
You just leave the dice.
Okay. So
So all you do is pick that dice up, put it in the tray, and it becomes a 4. There we go. Come on. Yeah. Tray etiquette. Definitely something eventually people will learn on TTS.
Yeah.
But there you go. See, quick and easy. So that's all hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8.
Yes, 8. I don't know why I counted 7 there, and it's actually 9. It's 9 because of crit blow.
They don't get crit blow unless they're on the last
He
rank.
played Roderick's press the advantage.
Did he?
Yes, yeah. Over right on the far
Oh,
side.
got you, yeah.
9 saves
2+.
and 1 fail.
Fails 1. He's vulnerable.
That's a statistically quite nice roll, though. It's quite a nice spread statistically. I like to see those from a stats head. And he re-rolled.
And passed them up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a relatively statistically average roll again. So he takes a wound and he now does a panic check. And this is where the mountain dies. I'm calling it. I'm calling that the panic token on the mountain.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. Like, I can see the mountain dying here.
Yep, there you go.
No, he's not dead because it's only 2 wounds.
But he's got a panic token on, right?
Yep. He's also 3. I mean, he is 3+, and I don't think he's within 6 of the corpse pile.
Is he 3+? I thought you said he was 4.
I thought he was 4. No, apparently he's 3.
Joffrey on the letters.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, he's 3. Oh my god, I even misread the stats card when I was looking at him. Jesus.
As if he needed to be any better. I hate this model. It's no wonder Scott refuses to play it.
I've got no problem with it. I just think, like, when people say it's not overtuned, and I genuinely don't think it is overpowered. Like, I don't. The problem is, in terms of Lannister balance, it's overpowered.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't fit into the rest of the Lannister force in a way that you would not take it. That's the problem with the Mountain that Rides.
Do you think it allows, because it's only 4 points, do you think it allows Lannisters a bit too much leeway with building as well, for sticking maybe extra, like an extra important attachment in, or a different choice of unit?
Yeah, you can drop a. I mean, this old list, by the way, would have been a unit of Poor Fellows instead of the Mountain from Carlo,
And
one of the attachments would have come out. Yeah. So you've given him exactly the same number of activations, but a little bit more utility with the attachments.
Yeah.
And a unit that is still just as fearful.
Oh god, yeah.
You know, and fearsome. And this is the problem with Lannisters. Like, why take guards when you can take the Mountain that Rides, which in general is better in terms of what it can do. You know, you're not going to take guards for 5 over the Mountain. So if the Mountain becomes available, suddenly all your 5-point units, like, you're asking yourself, why am I taking this over the Mountain? And the answer's got to be good. And if it's for the wounds, like, you know, you Poor Fellows, you want to take them for the wounds. You want to take them for the tar pit effect.
Yeah.
You know, but the Mountain, you don't have to answer that question. And that's the problem. He's not overpowered. He's maybe a little bit overtuned.
Do you think he's too efficient?
He's very efficient for his points cost. But he's within the Lannister faction. He's too good for the Lannisters.
Yeah.
In the, you know, if you saw the Mountain that Rides in Stark, people would be like, oh, whoa, OP, OP, OP. But actually, he wouldn't be that OP. Because Starks have got other ways of getting more activations for similar points costs.
Yeah.
But Lannisters don't. And it brings a tool that is just phenomenal to Lannisters. A phenomenally aggressive tool.
And Wolves, I mean, I know Wolves are a lot less points-wise, but they aren't anywhere near as efficient in, I suppose, in survivability. Although they've got good morale, the armor save's not terrible. Maybe they are, actually, yeah.
They don't deal out the same level of damage that Gregor, because the Wolves go munch, but the moment you run up against anything with a decent armor save, they cry.
Yeah, it's a waste of time.
Gregor just comes along and goes, I just don't care.
This isn't happening yet. Goodbye.
I will cleave you in twain. But yeah, so I don't think he needs to be changed, really. But what you need to understand is that he doesn't fit to the Lannisters at the moment. Because we talk about, you know, it's the age-old problem of internal faction balance. He is not internally balanced to Lannisters. He becomes, you know, you'd be surprised not to see him in nearly every Lannister list.
Mhm.
And in the Assault on Riverrun tournament that we are talking about today, his pick rate is really high
Yeah.
in the Lannister players. Is that a coincidence? I don't think it is.
No.
So yeah, and also we've seen 2 tournaments now. Actually, I'll say the NRG tournament he wasn't allowed. Lannisters were barely picked.
Yeah, there was only a couple of players, wasn't there? So
Yep.
it's and that was a fairly large one. How many players is Assault on Riverrun?
32, so it's exactly
32.
half.
Yeah.
And it's exactly half, and there are like 6 times more. No, I'm not even joking. There's like 3 or 4 more times Lannister players.
Yeah.
The interesting one, actually, is the A Song of Ice and Fire Stats tournament coming out from
Boards and swords.
Boards and Swords. Yeah.
Mhm.
Doesn't allow the mounted that rides.
Right.
What percentage of the field play Lannisters?
I don't know. Tell us.
4%.
As opposed to, what was it, 26? I think I was looking on Song of Ice and Fire stats earlier. 28. 20, so in this tournament, Salt and Riverrun, the highest played faction is Lannister, was 28%, followed by 25% Stark, and 22% Baratheon. They're the big
And the
hitters,
Boards and
really.
Swords tournament is on 24 players, I believe. Right, so
Geez,
slightly less players,
And
but
what's the name of the Boards and Swords one?
it's just called Boards and Swords. The Boards and Swords tournament is legit a couple of players less, but the percentage is again 33% Starks.
33% Starks to 4% Lannisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But interestingly, Free Folk. I mean, I entered the tournament as a Free Folk player. Free Folk got a lot of players this tournament, which I think is good. You get to see more of a better turnout than they did in the NRG, hopefully. But yeah.
So that's Carlo onto that middle. So the game essentially. So
It's
all
not over.
no,
The game is not over because
no,
Carlo moved away from the objective point on the far
but
left.
he's still got a retreat here. So he just needs to roll. What do you think that is? It's probably a 2. You'll need to roll a 2 or a 3 to get all the way back to there.
He has to roll a lot more than the 2 or 3, I think.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I do. I think it might be even like it might be a 3 or 4. Honestly, I think this is like a 50-50. Because it's not about getting back, it's also about clearing his own unit. He has to clear his own unit.
What about just killing that unit of berserkers?
He won't kill it with the attack. Probably.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So they're
I
not likely to fail the panic test, but top rank, which he will be on when he activates, because I've got Champion of the Faith. He has got 8 dice, I think, hitting on 3s. He's got 3 cards in hand, potentially. What's it, Wrath of the Warrior?
Yeah, Wrath of the Warrior.
Or Fury of the Warrior. So that gives Sunderin and +1 to hit. That's 8 dice on 2 with Sunderin, and Panicked and Vulnerable. There's only 8 models there. It's not bad odds. Not bad. I was seeing a swift advance. Was that a swift advance? Or was he just manoeuvring? Yeah. So, what do you think's more likely? What do you think's more likely? Him killing that unit, or him rolling enough to?
I mean, there are so many variables in him killing the unit.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't like to say which is more probable, but the one that wins him the game is retreating onto the objective. That wins him the game.
So that's a guaranteed win.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the Warriors activate, morale test passed, 2 models back.
They're on full ranks now, so they could hit back at 8 dice with all the bonuses and things.
All the fancy stuff. Yes, so we are seeing an attack. So he's confident that he's going to manage to kill this unit here.
Maybe he's not confident about killing the unit.
He discarded 2 Hear Me Roars as well, didn't he? So
yeah.
He's got no modification to their morale tests. Panic and Vulnerable.
Maybe he's trying to go for the crushing win, and he doesn't want to end it this turn because it won't be crushing.
Right. So we're on 6 saves. 6 saves, 5
saves.
plus.
5 plus. It's going to come down to the. It was always going to come down to the morale test, really.
Yeah.
It always is with these things.
So saves 3, vulnerable. We'll expect to see maybe another 1 or 2.
We see 2
Another
more come out.
2. So 4. So 4 wounds. Now this has to be a monumentally good panic test.
He's got the reroll for the D3, so like statistically, it's not unfeasible that he gets a 3 on the roll.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a good start.
So he needs to roll that D3. Yeah.
Yeah. He needs to roll the D3.
And Carlo's talking about the D3. So that's what Carlo wants to see. So we're going to take a panic test and we're going to see a panic token. Oh, and that's a pass.
This is a pass because he's testing on 5s again.
That's testing on 5, yeah. Hear me roll would have been great right about now.
Yeah. But so the thing is, right? Like statistically, Carlo was unlikely to kill that unit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not massively unlikely, but it was going to be unlikely. You know, he's probably with 8 hits and hit on to 2/3 with 8 attacks 2/3. He's probably going to get about 6 hits, which he got. Right? He then saving on.
So he's failed the morale test. Takes 4 wounds.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't see it. I don't see why you would do this and make the game go another turn. But at this rate, he will go another turn, and he should get a crushing victory more likely. He gets 2 points here because no, he doesn't get 2 points. He gets the 1. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's not fully covering it, is he? So, right. So hands drawn.
Blaidwyn is down to 8 cards left in his deck. Right, the man who's tried to take letters more often this game than Carlo. Although it was started like that, Carlo took letters this turn, I believe. But Carlo's down to 6 cards in deck. So Carlo, yet again, that letters on turn 1, where Blaidwyn was like, "Oh, I've got to get letters turn 1." Like it just hasn't paid off for him.
Yeah.
Like getting the maneuver to get a better board position on turn 1 would have just been better.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to see the advantage of just being really ruthless with your hand and just think, you know, like that aggressive discard. There's no because so I can't remember. I think it was the first time I came and played with you guys at Durham. One of the comments was, "There's only 6 turns in the game."
Yes.
So you know, what ifs and maybes aren't anywhere near as important as games with variable turn lengths or with infinite turn lengths until you know, X objective is achieved. It's now or never, really, isn't it?
Yeah. You want cards that are going to be effective this turn, but not every deck has cards that can be effective every turn. So you need, as a player, to play in a way that synergizes with your deck. A lot of people don't understand that as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like Baratheons, I know that people slate the Baratheon deck, and don't get me wrong, it is probably one of the weaker ones in terms of triggers. It is also very weak in terms of, like, it's not really what the game... You don't want to achieve what the deck is trying to make you do.
Yeah.
You know, being charged is, generally speaking, not a nice thing.
No.
But people then play in a way with the Baratheon deck where they don't allow themselves to get charged. And as a result, they never trigger any of their cards.
Yeah. So they complain about having defensive cards, but never playing a defensive style.
Yes. So you know, and that is an unfortunate thing that people do. But if you look at the Renly lists that people play, and the way that people play with Renly is that people aren't afraid if their Renly units get charged, because Renly Rose Knights won't die. And suddenly you see the way that they're played massively escalate and improve, like 10%, 20% because they're actually allowing these charges to happen and then going,
Yeah.
oh yeah, by the
Yeah.
way, I can do this now and
Lit-
this and this. Boom.
So we saw 8 hits with
Yes.
including skin changing, and we've seen Wealth of the Rock come down, which is a 3+ save now for Carlo. Just from the attack cat and swords play. So we fill one. We fill one. Two.
1, 2, 3. 3
Oh,
plus.
they've got Sunderland. They've got Sunderland. They've got Sunderland.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you're totally right, and I think the Rose Knights has unlocked sort of that ability for people, hasn't it? To they're seeing the opportunities more now that they've got those units that they're ready to really face check other units and just be like, yeah, I'm here, charges. I want you to do that.
It's also why the Stark deck is considered so strong, because the Stark deck isn't latently stronger than most of the other decks hugely.
Mm-hmm.
There are cards in the Stark deck which people look at and go, yeah, it's not that useful.
Mm-hmm.
But the key with the Stark deck is that the things it wants you to do are things that this game encourages you to do anyway.
Like charge and attack and move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all these things it wants you to do. And then it even gives you cards that do combinations of those things with like long bomb charges at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This game really punishes you if you fail charges.
Yeah.
And it gives you cards where it's like, oh no, you can just like, it's not even like a re-roll.
Yeah. It's just
Straight up,
you are
get
charging the maximum possible distance.
you know. And then you look at, I mean, it makes me sad because I love Davos as a character. I love Davos in the game.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
As a commander, I think he's brilliant. But Davos NCU has 2 tokens to make like he can re-roll a charge. Apologies, I just sneezed. You can re-roll a charge twice across the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that and think that isn't really what the Baratheons want to be doing, but I can understand the strength of it. But I value that very differently to the way I value some of the base kind of like high charge, high maneuverability Stark stuff.
Is Carlo first player?
No.
And he doesn't control the... Yet. He doesn't control it yet. He's got Joffrey to go down. So he's...
Still goes down, but
yeah.
The abilities haven't been taken away.
Got it. So we're seeing some movement. Catelyn on the horses. Do you think he's potentially trying to set up for a defensive play over the central objective? You know, so they're currently in the back arc. Oh no, maybe he's just going to go for a frontal attack. I mean, Warrior Sons could probably polish off those berserkers now, right?
Yeah, I mean, doing 4 wounds is more reasonable than doing the 8 that we saw before.
Yeah.
Certainly more reasonable. There's... He's just healed up. Right, okay. So yeah, he's going to do this attack, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
I don't think... Yeah, so I don't think he can come back after this, can he? If he... So
no.
Yeah, so... And it'll be...
Blaidwyn will win the game if this unit dies.
Who?
The question is... So Blaidwyn can't win if this unit dies.
Mm-hmm.
Which it doesn't look like it's that statistically likely right now.
So five hits. Yes, yeah, that's a unit. Yeah.
So it needed to be lots of saves on the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's 10-5. Carlo's trying to go for the crushing victory, which is why he didn't try and win it last turn.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in hindsight, he may have won it 10-5 or 10-6 last turn anyway. So he's going for the crushing victory because in tournaments that matters. Can't stress this enough. Anyone watching, you should be trying to win by the heaviest margin that you can in a
Of
tournament,
course.
because it'll affect things like tie breaks and other things going later on down the line. That being said, he hasn't managed that. He hasn't currently managed a crushing victory because, well, has he? He's going to get 2 points from the middle point. He's going to get 1 more point maybe from this
No, he's not quite
side.
on there, is he?
Is he not on it? No, he's
No,
not.
he's not.
So he's going to get 2 more points. Yeah, that could Mountain could definitely get 3 more points. That pushes him to 13. Blaidwyn is going to get 2, pushing him to 7. Yeah, unless Swift Advance comes in. Of course, he could Swift Advance onto the poor fellows in the middle and kill them. But yeah, it looks like it's GG. Cool. Carlo wins 13-7.
Excellent. Well played, both.
Yeah.
Don't know if you want to see if either of them want to chat about the game, but they would end up having to come over Discord this side.
Yeah.
Or
I'll go over and see.
yeah. Or
He's got to go.
yeah, he's got to go. Even Carlo can come join. I'll just check. All right. Okay. So Carlo's going. Okay, so we'll just wait for Carlo to join. He's just going to do a little sort of post-game chat about what he thought about the game. So yeah, I think that was really interesting. I think the it sort of there was a big yo-yo, wasn't there? So like it started off quite strong in Carlo's favour, then we sort of felt like it was petering off a bit, and then just a couple of really good plays sort of rocketed it back up for him. So that was really really good to see actually, and nice to see some good sort of Walder management, I suppose, is the best way to put it. Carlo, how do you feel about that? How did things go?
Yeah, it was a tough game. I came in with I expected to play against Roderick. I wasn't really scared of the maneuverability of Rob because that's not what the best thing about Poor Fellows is that they don't particularly care if they're being attacked in the flank. They don't care if there's tokens. So when I looked at his other list, he had those Outriders and Rob's cards themselves make him very maneuverable. But
Yeah.
I ignore effectively all that. That's kind of like the way the list is written.
Mhm.
But I was quite scared of Roderick because Roderick can put out quite a lot of damage in himself.
Yeah.
I knew that the game plan there was going to be, I didn't really want to have to charge Roderick ever. I knew the game plan was always going to be to try and panic him off the board.
Mm-hmm.
So that part worked out well. The two paid mutinies came up at a really good time and towards the start of the game and just allowed me to kill him off without ever really engaging with him. Other than that, my game plan was obviously to try and get to that center objective first. I knew that I wanted to use the first action of the second round to take horses to move on to it unactivated.
Right.
The key being that I would then get charged and I would heal when I activated.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I wanted to go for that at that time because I had protection of the father in hand.
Yeah.
So I thought I could fully weather the round of the berserkers. The sudden charge was the key move that gave him a whole extra activation. It meant that he could charge. He was still unactivated. It started to force my hand a lot because he could take swords. So now I needed to both kind of block swords, have bags, there was just too many things going on, and I think actually, in hindsight, I guess it was a bit of a hasty move.
Right.
In general, the whole game, though, when you're playing with poor fellows, is about activation control and activating to heal at the right time.
Yeah.
And I knew that was always going to slowly tip in my favor if I could keep units on the board while whittling his dogs down.
Mhm.
So as soon as he loses the activation advantage from the dire wolves,
Mhm.
the game's going to get better for me. So it looked really, really ropey for a time.
Yeah.
I made
So I think it was
happy
like,
moves.
was it like the end of turn 3? And no, yeah. So end of turn 2, beginning of turn 3.
Start, yeah, the
Yeah.
start of turn 3. So the big choice I made, and I knew it was a little bit of a risk, I guess, is that I choose to go second on the first turn
Mhm.
because it allows me to guarantee a kill with Walder. I make a wound with Walder on the last activation of the first round, and then a wound with him on the first activation of the second round. That
Yeah.
guarantees a dog is dead. But you have to accept that in Game of Thrones, what you've given up is that turn 3 is the most important turn in Game of Thrones.
Right.
In turn 2, everyone will rush to objectives. In turn 3, combat will really start to happen. And I give up first turn to him on turn 3. He
Yeah.
also made a really nice Arya move. I was trying to be a bit sneaky with the Warrior Sons using Shaggy Dog's position to mean that they couldn't be charged in the front.
Yeah.
But actually, all I ended up doing was giving up my flank to a nice Arya position. It was
And
something that I just
if
completely overlooked, and it was a bit of a sloppy maneuver that I made off of
Yeah.
the free maneuver from an objective.
The objective point, that's right, yeah. And I think the to compound that, I mean, obviously Warrior Sun's not renowned for being super resilient, but by no means are they a slouch in combat, and they tend to stick around for a little while, especially from your Champion of the Faith, and obviously you've got your healing cards from the High Sparrow, but Serial Pharrell Critical Blow
Yeah.
is a great combination.
So
Seeing
in,
4/6s.
interestingly, the Warrior Sons really did actually come into their own there. So Sirio had a really big explosive attack, which you have to be aware that he can do that.
Yeah.
He got those 4 crit blows, which is 8 automatic wounds, 2 more. But I mean, like, he's charging me in the flanks, so he deserves to do a lot of damage.
Of course.
Where the Warrior Sons come into their own, and actually I was really, really glad that I had some Warrior Sons there, was because I'm very, very unlikely to fail the morale test.
Mm-hmm.
Which I managed to pass. So he can't push through a kill on the panic side. So I'm able to survive. It's a bit dicey, but the real strength is that I'm able to retreat and put the berserkers into my front. And now I'm actually in my strongest position with the Warrior Sons, which is I'm about to be charged in the front, but I only have 1 rank.
Yeah.
And I only have 1 rank and I have tons of faith tokens. So I'm now about to have a 2+ save from the front. I also knew that I was going to survive because his sundering would be countered by my Wealth of the Rock.
Oh, Wealth of the
So
Rock, sorry, yeah.
I was going to be rolling a flat 2+ save.
And I think
Even
did you save every you saved every model from that roll, didn't you, as well?
I didn't take a single wound,
Yeah.
but it would have been pretty unlikely for me to die, considering I was on the 4 wounds. So that's why, I mean, it took me a while to work it out, think about it. I was still very scared. The card that I was most scared of, pretty much the whole game, is of course Swift Advance. And he didn't get Swift Advance, or at least he didn't play Swift Advance all game. That would allow him. I was very scared that he would just Swift Advance and charge me in the flank again. That could have been that would have been very, very different. That would have been 3+ saves. So there were lots of things. I mean, when I prepared for this game, I wrote down the cards that I wanted the most, which ones I cared the most about, and which ones I was most scared of him having. And beyond the sudden charge, I didn't really see the cards that I was scared of him having. And yet I had both of my Protections of the Father, which is in this list probably the most important card by a long way.
Yeah, especially because he's got such high volume dice roll and
Exactly.
Yeah.
The volume dice, that into poor fellows makes them incredibly tough. But the most important part to me about it is that your opponent thinks they're going to do a huge amount of damage, and they don't. They've planned for them to do a large hit here. And you suddenly blunt it, and that's when the poor fellows come into their own. Once they can engage you and start to grind you down, they become a very, very efficient unit. But your opponent will normally know this, and they will be looking to like wipe you out on the charge, or wipe you out with the charge, then the swords, or last activation, one round first of the next round. But Protection of the Father will step in and say, actually, the attack that you thought was going to do 8 wounds did 4 wounds. And suddenly you can survive on just a few models and start to heal and grind. It didn't quite happen in the center because he had that one extra activation. I thought that unit was going to hold and that was going to become a slow grind, but he managed to explode through there. So that's the kind of thing you got to look out for, those plays where they can still overwhelm you.
Yeah, the Berserkers are fantastic at just deleting units. I think it's
the particularly the brand Berserkers, which we see a lot at the moment,
with devastating impact as well. So I think what was it, 13 wound or 13 hits in the first attack against the. So obviously the Protection of the Father came in fantastic.
13 hits is too much even for Protection of the Father.
Yeah.
Really. Also, it puts my timing off because I would like to take money bags, but at that point, money bags isn't enough healing probably, and things start to go bad. Whereas I need to be in control of that, and the Brand Berserkers are probably the single unit which can blast through the poor fellows. And you saw him really going to town with them. They did a lot of work, but eventually they got bogged down with the Warrior Sons, which is where I needed them to be.
Excellent. Well, I think you played really well. I think you kept your head at that turn 3 with a little bit of a slouch, and things.
I really thought that it might have gone the other way.
So did we, to be honest with you.
I'm pretty lucky that Shaggy Dog killed himself holding that token.
Realistically, though, so you would have welded them.
I would, but he frees Walder up to do much more, such as he frees Walder up to shut down the Berserkers, which then became the Pebble, which started an avalanche, which was suddenly I now didn't have to think about activation control. I just was ahead on activations, and I could just start to throw my full weight against the few units that were left. So,
I've got an interesting question, right? Why didn't you win this game last turn? Did you choose to go for the crushing?
Or why didn't I?
Did you choose to go for the crushing to get that extra turn because you felt comfortable that you would win in the next turn?
Where did you think that I should have?
You could have retreated the Warrior Sons back onto the objective and hit 10 while he was on 4 or 5.
You don't use your poor fellows to charge forward into Sirio's unit, which ended up being a fair charge anyway.
I was very guaranteed that I needed to use the poor fellows with that charge because I needed to protect the flank of the Warrior Sons. I was very aware that actually I didn't care whether I made the charge or not. I just needed to not roll a 1. A 1 was going to mean that I didn't get far enough to protect my flank 50% line. Everything else was, I didn't care whether or not we were in combat. That wasn't important to me.
Why were you afraid if your Warrior Sons died?
Because
you'd have hit 10 points anyway. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you wouldn't have got the crushing victory.
True.
But the Warrior Sons were irrelevant at that point. The fact that you made him invest resources on the last turn, still trying to shift them, says to me that from an objective perspective, that was the least important thing on the board. Actually,
I guess that's very true. I wouldn't say I was playing for a crushing victory, but I knew that the game was always swinging towards me, and that rather than chase 10 points, I would rather concentrate on making continuous good moves that kept things on the board.
That's fair enough.
It wasn't like if the game was slipping away from me, I would be putting all my attention on how can I get to 10. before my opponent does? Can I steal a victory in a game that's swinging away from me? But I felt that the game was swinging towards me, and that all I needed to do was not allow myself to be outplayed on any significant part of the board. I honestly didn't even think about retreating the Warrior Sons. And I think, yeah, you're right. Would it have made it a 10-6, possibly?
It would have made it
10-5.
10-6.
10-5.
It would have been 10-5.
No, 10-5, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there
Now,
you go.
interesting
Yeah.
thing, just to really throw a cat among the pigeons. I just jumped over to see what was in Blaidwyn's hand at the end of the game, and there's a swift retreat. Sorry, not a swift retreat. Sorry, a swift advance.
Okay.
So, you know, I'd like to have seen on the last turn from him, and I know he had to go away.
He wanted us to really play out the last turn fast because, you know,
Yeah.
there's very, very few situations where it's going to be anything other than a crushing in that last turn. So, you know,
I think the key from him, the Sirio unit Sirio units could have swift advanced and maybe killed your middle unit. And if he did, that would have been a 3-point swing in his advantage. It would have been 10-10.
I suppose the last question.
Actually, it would have been 9-10.
It'd be quite unlikely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose the last question that I was going to ask is in regards to the mountain that rides and the unit of 8 great axes with Rick on. So I think. So I personally felt like you were playing a game of cat and mouse, more trying to bait them away from the central objectives, potentially nabbing the objective at the back at the time, but really not worrying about that so much. They've spent 8 points on that unit. Do you feel like it was a good utilization of points, good unit to take? Sort of, because I just feel like in this game we saw very little from them, and for the sake of maybe another unit of berserkers, I just don't see the place for the great axes in this list against you. I suppose he never made the list of against you specifically, but I'm not sure.
So
the
great
application.
axes, their value was that it was very much a cat and mouse. I was a little bit surprised that he came towards me with the great axes. I sort of put myself in a position which was, well, I can't be charged, but I might actually kind of tempt you into coming over here. My position was a little bit sloppy, actually, in that I shouldn't have been close enough for him to control the token while also being engaged with me. Really, I should have just been a bit further away because obviously I had plenty of move to get onto the token. But I was more than happy for him to charge me because obviously he has no way to reduce my saves unless he begins the round engaged with me. But that also means that I'm never going to charge him. My positioning with him was sort of, if you go into the poor fellows, I may want to charge you in the flank because between giving out a panic on the charge, the fact that they don't actually have brilliant morale, plus at the time I had Fealty to the Crown in hand, so I could put off a big attack and put loads of wounds back onto the poor fellows as a counter if he went towards the center. So I was sort of threatening that I could flank you, I could gain the token, and when he came to me, I thought, this is ideal. The mountain actually hasn't done anything, and I will, like you say, I will exchange these 4 points for the mountain that rides versus your 8 points, and it is true that if he can get more work out of that unit, the game becomes much closer. The whole value of my list is if I can reduce you down to one-on-one combats, then I can probably win. It's when you make 2 units into 1 that things get dicey for me. I think that if you're thinking that there are possibly Rose Knights and the like in the event, then the great axes have some value.
They do, yeah.
If your opponent is unaware of how crazy their damage can be or how important that no saves is, then there are some opponents who will just walk into them. But I agree that right now the Berserkers are just the better choice because the Berserkers don't require your opponent to misplay. You just be aggressive and you're making your points back. Don't forget, though, that 8 points does bring with it Shaggy Dog.
So it's 2 activations, isn't it? So.
No, it's still 2 activations for 8 points, which is cheaper than anything the Lannisters can buy. And the cheapest activation I can buy, the Mountain That Rides, really doesn't want to face it. So, getting more out of that unit could bring the game a little bit closer. against my army, unless he puts them into my warrior sons, I really don't care. I don't care about your no armor saves. If you attack the mountain, I'll retreat. If you attack poor fellows, that's actually a really good combat for me.
I think the biggest mistake I saw, and we talked about it on stream, was that the Roderick Bowman unit really, like, we know that you were going to panic it off the board, but you weren't even worried about it when it was on the board.
Yeah. So
deploying that in the middle where it can just kill a rank of poor fellows every turn,
what
pretty
I
much.
was actually very, very scared of, and when I played this game out in my mind, his Roderick unit is in the center.
Yeah.
His Roderick unit in the center, and his the objectives get deployed exactly as I think they're going to be. That the turn off NCUs isn't there on the board at all is very important to me, obviously, because I need Walder to kill the dogs. So that there isn't a turn off NCU is a big win for me. But I was very, very surprised that the two dogs didn't just like double team the objective that starts next to him. Which allowed Roderick to really pressure the center of the board. Like, I was very, very scared of Roderick until he deployed him in that corner. When he was deployed in that corner, the mountain that rides can marginalize him because I will sit just outside of 14 inches. If you ever advance, I will be able to charge you. And if you don't advance, then you're doing very, very little for the unit that I'm actually most scared of. When I look at their list, I like... I'm prepared for the game. I put a little star next to the things that I'm most scared of. And he's the unit I'm most scared of anything. Like the Berserkers with Bran and Hodor are like number 2 because I have things that can counterplay against Bran and Hodor. But if Roderick just starts standing in the middle and smashing me while I stand on the 3 tokens, then he's gonna have had so much effect by the time that I've managed to kill him with all those panic tests. He can also he can soften those units up before Bran and Hodor charge in, which makes them much more likely to go on through.
Yeah.
Also, crazy dangerous even to the warrior sons between the vulnerable token that he puts out and then he gets to reroll his hits. Like the unit is so efficient.
I think that's what makes him scary, isn't it? Because the biggest downfall to any ranged unit is the fact that you don't have rerolls, and he just snips that weakness straight out of the unit.
Cards, although the cards that I'm most scared of there are probably Press the Advantage, which is a really, really strong Roderick card. But it all relies on Roderick being the center of attention. He needs to be within 12 inches putting those tokens out, and he only ever managed to do it just that one time.
Yeah.
Onto a unit that I don't care about tokens anyway, because Warrior Son, poor fellows. You assume that you failed every save. You assume that you failed every save, but that you can't take anything extra from panic. So, I think that was his the big thing, that when the game got set up that way, I thought that's a huge pressure off.
Yeah.
I can now be aggressive towards the center. I was thinking actually I might have to have thrown away my whole plan of trying to get to the center first. Not that it ended up working out that well for me, but if he had been overlooking that center objective with Roderick, I wouldn't have gone for it.
Right.
As a final question, then, I've got the Mountain That Rides. We've seen now 3 tournaments. We saw the NRG TTS tournament, in which case Kickstarters were not allowed, so no Mountain, and 3 Lannister players was it? 4 Lannister players, just very small percentage of the field. Okay. We then see Assault and Riverrun. Mountain is allowed, and we see Lannisters being one of the most represented factions.
The most
32-man tournament. Yeah. But that's in half the tournament size. We then see Boards and Swords. Boards and Swords just started up, and the number of Lannister players in a 24-man tournament is 1. No Kickstarters allowed. Is the Mountain That Rides a piece for the Lannister players out there that they feel like they need to be competitive, while also potentially, and this is the kind of crux of where I'm getting at, don't think he's overtuned, but internal Lannister faction balance means that he's almost a guaranteed pick for nearly every list, meaning that the game state for Lannisters right now is actually probably really unhealthy. Do you think that?
So interestingly, I don't regret taking the Mountain That Rides. So this is, you two will be aware, but this is an adaptation of a list which I've run for quite a long time. But normally I don't have Meryn Trent and I don't have the mountain that rides, and that 5 points buys a 4th unit of Poor Fellows.
Poor Fellows, yeah.
I don't regret taking the mountain that rides, but I regret not adapting the rest of the list around that, which is I believe that Joffrey should now be replaced with by Varys, because the way the old list worked is you have 5 units, all of whom can gain faith tokens. So you want your opponent to have to take crowns and have to do a test on one of your units. If you take crowns, you have no choice. You must make an opponent take panic check.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally you'd never not, so there's nothing to be lost from it. But when you're facing 5 faith units, you're actually forced to give me faith tokens.
Yeah.
I effectively can't fail. So then I want Joffrey because I want to control crowns, but I never want to take the zone myself. And that's how that list is built. Interestingly, I thought it's a much better thing to have the mountain that rides, who has a different dynamic and aggression to him, while also saving me a point and buying Meryn Trent, who allows me to put out some extra tokens. It's all good. Except the thing that I've overlooked is that now, whenever I play Joffrey, you put a panic token on the mountain that rides. Then you're very willing to take crowns in response and make me take a -1 test on the mountain that rides with a panic token. Now at a 4+, if you can make it have a corpse power 5+, that's a very, very failable test with that panic token, and he now dies.
We did discuss
That's
that at
the way
length,
he
actually.
died that is the way he died in both of my other games this tournament. He died on the very first turn through a crowns test. Which suddenly you're like, well, he's not weak in himself, but he is a weakness in the list. Interestingly, I rolled a 3 to pass a flat panic check with the mountain when he was charged by the great axes, and I was panicked. So I don't know why. I don't know why Blaidwyn didn't choose to just have a 1 in 6 chance of me rolling the double 1.
Yeah.
Interestingly, he then also crowns panic tested me, and I took a 4+ panic check, and I passed on a 4. He again had the choice to have a 1 in 6 chance to kill me off there, and that he can swing the game against you is a very big thing. But the important thing is as much as he maybe actually doesn't fit into this list as well as I thought he did, being able to buy a unit for 4 points opens up so many list building opportunities that you otherwise feel that you don't have. And that's the importance of the direwolves. They allow you to build the list in the way you want. We see big variety, other than the fact that the direwolves are always there in these competitive Stark lists. We actually see a really good variety in the units that get used. But the Lannisters, we don't see very much variety in what gets used. We see Knights of Castle Rock getting spammed because they're very efficient at 8 points. And when allowed, we always see the mountain that rides because he bumps you up into being able to buy 8 combat units without just spamming the cheapest things you can buy. And really, I think that their problem is that the meta isn't suiting them, and a 4-point activation is the answer to the meta.
Yeah.
They generally don't play well into Starks. Of all the factions, they only win about 40% of the time against Starks, and yet it is the most, by large majority, the most recorded game result. Of course it is, because it comes in the starter box. They're both played the longest. They are the 2 most popular factions, except when Lannisters are non-existent in tournaments, because that's like over 600 results, and they lose regularly, and that's why the Lannisters are unpopular. The mountain helps in that particular matchup a lot. I do think he's too powerful for 4 points. I think what he brings for 4 points is more than 4 points should bring. But I think that what the Lannisters care about more than how powerful he is that they care that they can buy something for 4 points, because they can't buy anything else in the game other than NCU for 4.
And they want that combat activation, not an NCU.
Yeah, exactly. You already, when the High Sparrow is incredibly popular. Some people are running High Sparrow twice. Everybody else is running High Sparrow once, plus somebody else, probably Tyrion by large majority. They are being marginalized into a few competitive list builds. But when you take the High Sparrow already, you probably have a couple of NCUs that you want. You've got those 3 NCUs, but you still want to be able to buy another activation for as cheap as possible, and you're not going to buy a 4th activation. So being able to buy the mountain is just key to the list building mentality and the list building options that you have.
Cool. Well, Carlo, thank you for the insight. Thanks for streaming the game. It was good to watch. And thanks everyone who watched. That was it was a good game to watch. It was really interesting. Quite backwards and forwards during the middle turns. Good to see. Obviously, decent play and good game knowledge, leading to victory. So, well done, Carlo, and thanks a lot for the stream.